All right, welcome back to another episode of Seeking Revonar with SirLucien on the SirLucien Gaming channel. And this is another expedition heading out from Port Bastion, or will be shortly. This is, I believe, Killian's. Yep, this is Killian's expedition. I can't tell if you've done. I know you've been on any. Have you ran any as the expedition leader? This is your first one as expedition leader. Okay, cool. So it's kind of funny when I look back at my notes. I kind of list them as like we had Sir Kovac's expedition, we had Andred Lee's expedition, we had Iravel's expedition, Rula's requested expedition. I forget who was in charge of that one. Drubrin, Timor, and then Killian. So it's been like all these different people kind of cycling through the expedition leader spot, which has been pretty fun. But you will recognize many of these players if you've been watching any of the shows, whether it's been the main expeditions or even it used to be the old Monday Night crew. We've got a couple of them. So these are all pretty familiar. We're seeing Killian and Drubrin and Iravel, Alberix, and Timor, though I was hoping for Milton, but whatever. So we are ready to get going. We are ready to have some fun. And there was no expedition last week, so kind of 2 weeks have passed in the world as things have gone on. And we're using the Forgotten Realm week, so it's about a 10-day week in their calendar. So just keep that in mind. But we're going to go ahead and jump in. So normally we have a big montage in the beginning in the inn, which happens to be known as the Lovely Coin. But that's usually just to introduce new players. And since all these players have been in expeditions before, we should recognize them as we go. So we shouldn't have to do a reintroduction. So I think we're just going to jump into the action of it and get going. So we have a quick morning session where the crew is gathering their various gear, gathering their various equipment, gathering their weapons, meeting up and down at the bottom of the inn, making one last check of the carved map on the carved table. As always, a fixture that seems to never sleep is Rula behind the bar. You do see quite a bit of activity for being this early in the morning. It seems like there are some other expeditions that are heading out today, and you recognize them as quite a few of the newcomers that have been coming over the last few months. It's been more and more new adventurers have been coming from the Sword Coast. Word has gotten out that there's new lands here and many are trying to come and seek their fortune. The other thing you've noticed quite a bit more in town lately also has been for the most part, the town is mostly probably human for the most part as far as the townsfolk. Though there is or has been the next kind of largest size group that you might see is the dwarves. There is a dwarven silver mine to the south of Port Bastion. Well, recently there's been quite a bit more dwarves, so they must be expanding the silver mine works there. And you've been seeing several more dwarven barges that have made it here. You've been seeing several more of the different dwarven mining company group there, and lots of supplies have been heading south to the mine, and lots of ore has been shipped back over to the Sword Coast. So it's a big silver mine that seems to be paying out pretty well. The other thing that there's a little bit of a buzz going around the tavern, and as a couple of you may be curious, and you might, as you're heading out the door, you might stop and just ask somebody what's going on. One of the things you pick up is some of the town scouts that were out to the north saw another elven trader caravan coming across up from the north heading south. They saw them out on the plains, and it looks like they're heading to town. So they're thinking that within the next few days there may be an elven group of traders, or at least a caravan of several wagons will make it to Port Bastion, and we'll find out maybe a little bit more about that once they finally get here. Probably You guys will just be getting back from your expedition by the time that group would be arriving, so you might be able to hear some rumors and stuff on that.
Find his keepers from the last shipment, right?
Well, I guess we'll see. So
what last shipment? I don't remember a last shipment.
yeah, somebody sold that. All right, so we head out, and as you open the door, and it's been open a couple times, and you're heading out, you feel the cool breeze of the outside cool air, and there's about maybe 2 inches of snow as you trudge through and begin to head to the southern gate. Many times, the expeditions that you guys go on take you to the north gate. Every now and then, you guys head south. So in this case, you're heading towards the south gate, and you crunch through snow where the streets are pretty clear with all the traffic beating it down, but you can see it on the sides, you can see it on the roofs. You can smell dense wood burning smoke as everybody is keeping their fires stoked, as the wind coming off of the coast and the temperature has stayed in the probably like the low 40s, low 30s, dipping down enough that at times it might snow at night, and it might warm up a little bit during the day, but not even enough to get rid of the snow. So it's been pretty cold thus far here on the coast. We see our group head out. The guards wave to you and open the gates in the south. The other thing you notice, actually the gates are already open in the south, as several of the wagon trains, these big, heavy, squat wagons that are it looks like they're filled with supplies, have some tarps over them, and it looks like the Dwarven Mining Company is taking a shipment on that southern road. And you'll be able to follow that road for a ways until you need to kind of break off of it and then head deeper into where you think there might be ruins. One that was cited in a previous expedition. Not much information about it. Nobody's been out there to see what it is. You guys have decided to head that way and see if you can figure out what's going on. So, as usual for our West Marches style game, we kind of condense our travel. Hey, Mudamole, I see you in chat. Welcome to the game. And we start off with our 4 rolls that we do that just cover our traveling there and back, assuming our characters make it back from their escapades. And we just take care of that now so that we can just dive into the action. So our first roll of the evening is going to be a navigation roll. And this is the person who is trying to keep, had looked at the map the most before leaving on the table, and try to keep an eye on landmarks to make sure that you're still heading west, you're still going the right way. And then when you start to get into the mountains, they're trying to look for the right way to kind of like, can they find a trail that's going to make it easier, or are you going to have to go down and through ravines and gullies and backtrack across streams and rivers or whatever it might be, but to try to get you over to where you think this ruin might be. So who's going to make the navigation check for us tonight?
Well, hopefully Albirix will remember the way, since we were the ones that found the cave last time.
Hopefully, but you never know.
All right, let's give it a shot here.
All right, let me bring up mine. I'm not even looking at
You're still
game.
blessed, by the way, apparently.
I was blessed, but a 24 will hopefully be all right.
Yeah. So that means that you do not get lost. Alberix has done a fantastic job with picking the right route. So when you come up across a certain hill or mountain, ravine kind of area, he's always seems to have picked the right way to go during this trip, so that you haven't had to backtrack. You haven't come out of like a false canyon or a box canyon and had to make your way back out. And you've stayed on track towards the area. Now this trip, you believe, let's go to our map a second here, down in our handouts. You believe, let's see, that it's going to be about day 2-ish, maybe on the 3rd day, just depending, is where you think it is from the town. So you think it's about 3 days out. You explore, maybe 3 days back at the most. So you've been planning on about a 6-day trip for the most part. And Albrecht has kept you right on track. And you do get back to the shrine area where you guys are able to find that again. And then Albrix, at that point, you can kind of lead further kind of south and west from the shrine area and begin to move where you thought you saw the ruins, or the person that actually saw the ruins. I don't remember who it was that saw it.
It was me, Killian.
Killian. Yeah, so Killian kind of described it to you, and you've kind of brought the people down there. So it's on the evening of the second day. You feel like you're in the right area-ish when you guys begin to search. But before we get to that, let's also take care of our other rolls real quick. So that's a success. Let me make sure I write that down for you, get your credit for that. Yeah, so that's a pass. Awesome. And assuming you make it back, you'll get awarded some extra XP. All right, so our next one is our forager, and this is the person who tries to keep their eye out for any of the things that the town might ask for. A lot of times the herbalist asks for these things, the clerics, the healers, sometimes the farmers are asking for things. So who's going to go ahead and make the foraging roll?
Well, hopefully Lady Arya will smile down on her champion.
All right. So this would be foraging would be a nature roll.
Oh, she does.
Ooh, a critical.
Ow.
Hold on a second. Let me go, because critical means something.
I think that's the first roll I've made in all the time we've been playing Revonar.
Nice.
On one of these.
I think that might be it.
Oh, here we go. So critical success. This means you happen to spot something that is is quite valuable, assuming you make it back. Let me go. I didn't even open that up. Let's open that. You guys have not made these rolls so much. I didn't even have that PDF open. Let me go and find that real quick.
That's just hurtful.
Yeah, it is. Yep. Let's see.
The truth hurts.
So what kind of banter does the group have on the trip while I open this PDF up?
I'm sure Timor is all about talking up the Lady of the Lake at this point.
Yeah, Drubin would be talking your ear off, asking about that adventure you guys went on.
Well, we're basically walking right to it. So there's that shrine. That was it.
Yeah, you guys would be able to stop by and check it out if you wanted to. The water is absolutely clear. It feels very calming when you're near it. It is not iced over like many of the other places you might come across in the snow, and it's like a crystal clear blue water. Though you don't see anything else around it.
Fill our canteens. And we should all drink from it, I would think.
It is quite refreshing.
Is anybody else cutting out here and cutting out?
A little bit at the front and the back.
Was it mine or other people's?
You've done it, and so have some other folks.
Oh, I can't find my PDF. So I guess I'm just going to make something up and just not worry about it. I will find out where it is later. I had a really cool PDF that had like these random roll charts for things that you could find, herbs and things. So like silver root or all this other kind of stuff that you could use, but missing it. So we will say for a critical success on foraging, not only do you have collected enough of, let's say it is something that's really in demand. How about Wolf's Bane? It's something that they use quite often in curing different types of diseases, especially in the wintertime when it seems to hit more. And it helps with all of the concoctions they make to kind of keep off of the the different flus that are going around and keeps the plague kind of type diseases away. They use it to make sure that the rats don't get crazy in the town. And it's been a shortage lately, so the price has gone up for anybody that could find any, because it's wintertime. It's been hard to find and harvest any of that stuff. And people have had to go further out to get this. As the town has been here long enough, the surrounding area is starting to get picked over, and you have to go further out before you're going to find more stuff. But you can go ahead and write down on your notes that, assuming you make it back, you found enough wolf's bane and you put it in your pouch or sack or backpack that you can sell it for 100 gold when you get back for a critical success. Well done. All right. So moving on from that, let's go ahead and jump back over to the notes so I don't forget who did that.
Having never met a Loxodon, Albirix is curious as to where you come from.
It's difficult to say. Honestly, I'm not sure where myself.
And how would that be? I come from the Outer Plains, far, far from here. Are you from some other plane?
Well, I was brought up in a weird society where I was supposedly selected for something, some divine order, and I wasn't given much information about where I was, what I was doing.
And you came to be here how?
I ran away and I prayed and I appeared upon the shores.
The surprised look crosses the Gith's face. It seems there are many mystical hands at work at this place, as he nods over to Timor, who's had a saucy lass lob a scimitar at him from a pond.
And there's no basis for forming a government. I'll tell you that right now.
All right. So the next one is our encounter roll, or what we call our vanguard roll. This is the person who's keeping an eye out to make sure, while our navigators watching for the right tracks and our foragers making sure they're looking for stuff that could be brought back to town and could be useful. This person's making sure that nothing, they run into something like, a woke up bear or an avalanche or dragons coming down from the sky, any of these kinds of things. And typically what they're trying to do is, if they see something, they just want to make their way around it, not really engage and spend resources dealing with it. It's just easier if they can just sneak by it and continue on and get onto their expedition without trying to do anything. So who's going to be the vanguard role?
Well, the hope is that Irevel and Edgar can help us avoid these troubles.
Okay, so let's go over what our DC is going to be, because this one's always different and depends on what we have for our players. So in this case, let's go to overview where I have all my notes. Okay, so how many do we have that would have heavy armor? 2. Okay, so that's going to give us a 4. How many would have medium armor?
1.
Okay, so that's a 5. How many arcane casters?
2.
Ooh, 7. Okay, we have our DC now. This would be a stealth check for the Vanguard. And again, it's just trying to keep them on the track without having to deal with anything as they go. So which person's going to make that roll?
That would be me.
All right.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Probably not going to.
Okay, that one's a fail. And all it means is at one point you do recognize something that's in your way. It seems to be a herd of giant buffalo, and it's enough that you try to sneak your way around, but you spook them. And then it kind of creates a stampede, and you guys have to backtrack and get away from that. You have to let this big herd of these buffalo-like creatures go by, and it takes you some time to make your way around, back up and around this big herd so that you don't spook them and get over onto the other side of them without them trying to just all of a sudden stampede towards you and make your guys' day a really bad day. So it ends up making the trip take about a day longer than it normally would because you have to backtrack a little bit. But other than that, no other problems happen with the Vanguard roll. Let me go back to my notes, and that's going to leave us with the very last roll. And that one is going to be this is the person who's going to keep an eye out for other ruins or temples or shrines or anything that might be interesting that they can bring back to the tavern and tell people, hey, there's something else out there we saw on the way to this ruin or something that we were going to. So a lot of times they won't go to the other thing. They'll just make note of it, make sure they have some good idea of where it's at, and then it could be a different expedition later on. So who is going to make that roll?
Well, Loxodons have as good a vision as they do hearing, I've been told.
Okay. So this is a perception check. It's a base set perception check. So you can just go ahead and roll, and we'll see if we pick up anything else.
Oh, surely I should roll well with my heightened vision. Here comes the crit one.
Who's Shirley?
Ooh, pretty good, but not quite enough to pick up another ruin or temple or something to explore in the area. It doesn't harm in any way to fail it. It just means that you didn't see anything on the way or on the way back. These rolls cover going and coming back, assuming they make it back. All right, so I think we're good there, so we can kind of dive in. So you're about a day and a half past where the shrine was. Everybody filled up their canteens with crystal clear water, a feeling of warmth and a feeling of peace while you're near there. Quickly kind of fades as you get about 500 to 600 yards away, and then you're kind of just trudging through snow. And this is a much more hilly and forested area here, as you were right up next to the big mountain range. And when you think of these mountain range, think of them as big, jagged peaks of solid stone that they go up, and it's almost like the teeth of some ancient creature just splitting up through the land, even though you can tell it's actually stone. So it's very jagged. It's very sheer cliffs. And you kind of are in the area. It's about the second day towards the evening, and you feel like you're starting to look around, but you haven't had any luck, and you feel like you're going to make camp, and you'll get a good look again in the morning to see if you can kind of find where this ruin was, where you think it was. So we have kind of a scene of setting up camp, finding an area that's maybe under some trees, maybe make a little lean-to by cutting some wood down, get your fire set up because it's going to be awfully cold hanging out here on the sides of the mountains in this wooded, hilly, snowy area. You do your best to kind of block it so that's not like it's just this big blaze that is a beacon for everything in 10 miles. But you also notice that during the winter, you haven't seen a lot of creatures. You've seen some tracks here and there as you have continued on past the herd. That was like the biggest kind of disturbance of animals that you had seen, but it seems really quiet out here. It seems like, wintertime, things are hibernating, things are keeping out of your guys' vision and where you're at. And it's not hard because the big long sight lines that you have now that you're kind of up in this elevated area. So we go through an uneventful night, each person taking their turn on watch, keeping the fire going, keeping it a low smoke fire so it doesn't draw attention. Everybody wakes up in the morning, definitely cold, stiff, has a cold meal, and then you kind of gather your packs up, you kick out the fire, and then you begin your search once again. So tell me a little bit about how you guys are going to search, how this looks, what's going on. Are people all going in different directions? Is everybody going together as one group? Are you splitting up or anything? What's happening as you begin to try to search and look for what you thought might have been a cave entrance, maybe, or something? You weren't quite sure what you saw. It was definitely a depression in the mountain that seemed interesting, but you've not had any luck finding it thus far.
I'd like to use survival to kind of just look at how mountains naturally form as to where something like that might occur.
Okay. Survival roll will work. All right. Yeah. So you're looking around, and you're kind of looking towards the mountain range area. So while you're doing that, what's the rest of the group doing?
I'd be taking a look around through Edgar's vision, getting a bird's eye view, trying to see more of the general area.
Okay.
I'll have a javelin at the ready and just keeping an eye on the surrounding, looking for anything hostile.
Killian would just be hanging out with Drubin, just making sure that he stays safe, like, because he's the biggest target in his mind. So Killian's just trying to be like, okay, I got you.
All right.
And Urban would be hanging out with Killian because he's the party leader. And yeah, I don't know what I'm looking for out here. I haven't seen it. I haven't been out here yet, so it's all.
Okay. So, Albrix, you're kind of staring at the cliff sides, and you think you see something that looks like a certain way the shadow kind of makes this weird, almost like an opening on the sidewall. But as you kind of maneuver around and you're looking, you can tell it's a play of the shadows. It's a play of the way the lighting is looked. And it would have been not too unimaginable that from a distance, it could have, the way the shadow looked, it may have looked like it was something that was here, but you're not seeing anything. As you get closer, it looks like it's just cliff face in the way that the natural cliff is. I do want, though, all of you to go ahead and do a perception check for me.
Is this smell based at all?
This would be sight or hearing.
In the Ravnica rules, they took out the hearing and only kept smell for Loxodons.
For the Loxodons. Well, there's some good rolls in there anyway. So we got a 19, a 20, a 17. Drubrin. Okay, so yeah. So Timor, Iravel, and Alberix, as you're kind of scanning the horizon, I think the first person to see something is Iravel. You get a feeling of like an instant emotion of fear, and you're just like, you all of a sudden, you're just like, you just kind of almost break down, and then you realize as like in a nanosecond that, oh wait, it's not me, it's my link to my raven, that you're getting a strong emotion of fear. Just as that's happening, and then you kind of look to Edgar in the sky. Timor, you happen to be scanning down in the valley away from you, because the mountains are to the south of you. And so it's like they just rise up to the south, but you're looking more north, keeping an eye on anything that might be approaching the group. And off in the distance, you see the trees, and you do notice that the sky has cleared out. So the sun is kind of shining bright. It's almost like a noon day, and it's super bright out there. And maybe you even have, you're kind of shielding your eyes in some way so that you can kind of look out to the north. And from the top of the trees, which are all snow covered, you see like a burst, and it's almost like a black cloud. And then you realize it's like an enormous kind of flock of birds kind of jump into the air and then shoot up into the air. And then just as that's happening, Alberix, you feel the ground beneath you begin to rumble and shake, and then all of you feel the same sensation. There's a huge earthquake just starts shaking everything, and you can see the snows coming off of the trees. Everybody's having a hard time. Everybody gets to make a dexterity saving throw to see if they can even keep their footing. All right, all good rolls. 18, 17, 20, 14. Ooh, 3. So we see Alberix kind of lose and shift. He was on a patch of icy snow rocks, and he kind of slides halfway down the hill, not too far, and then catches himself, and it just everything is rocking around you. You hear up in the cliffs to the south, which is where all the mountain area, in different little parts, not necessarily where you guys are at, but a couple of few places, you watch some of these cliffs just like crumble and then just kind of create their own little mini avalanches in different areas. Nothing that's going to threaten your party, but you just can see it happening in all this mountain range area. And it's like everything in the world. This isn't just like a little thing. It's like the world is shaking for a moment. And as that kind of slowly rumbles to a stop, and the birds are kind of flocking up in the air out to the north, and everything begins to settle, you hear the last trickling of rocks, and any of the avalanche stuff kind of slows itself down. Off to, let's see, to the south, so off to the west, Edgar and Iravel, who had a really good high perception, and Timor, as you begin to scan everywhere at this point, the 19, the 20, and then Edgar, who's flying, would see it. You think you see to the southwest of your position, maybe, I mean, because you're elevated and you can see, 10, 20 miles out along this ridge that heads all the way, it just keeps going west. You think you see something that looks like a bright light that almost shines at you, like it's almost like a spotlight for a second, that shines at you, and then as the shaking stops, it seems to disappear again, and then you don't see it. But it's clear that it's kind of to the west of where you are, and definitely along this mountain range.
At this point, Druben would like to cast False Life on himself.
Okay. Go ahead and put that in chat for us so we can see what that cool spell will do.
This is not like the reflection off of a looking glass in the distance. This is something bigger, something generated. Like the flash of a scope. Not that this is a scope situation, but
no, you would think it would be bigger than that.
Okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it would be that small. This was something bigger. Though you do think it was not so much as something shining light at you. It was more that you think that the way the sun was coming down, there's no clouds right now, but the sun caught something that then that beam hit you, because it was clear that it was sunlight that's reflecting off something, and then it went away. So you'd be pretty sure it was sunlight.
Well, something glinted over there. Point.
Would I have any suspicions about this having to do with any of the gods that we've recently become accustomed to?
Since you didn't really see it, you were kind of trying to stay on your feet and not sliding down, and you were kind of looking fearful to make sure no avalanche was going to hit you. You didn't really see it, so you're not getting any
Fair enough.
divine impression from anything.
perhaps it's quite valuable. I've heard diamonds will reflect sunlight if they're large enough.
Could I have Edgar just fly in a perpendicular direction between us and the mountains and just try to see if he catches the glint shining in a different direction from us, if things have shifted maybe?
Yeah, you could send him out that way. So we see kind of Edgar kind of fly off. Now, this is definitely far enough that he'll be gone a bit. I mean, you probably think, you're guessing 15, 20 miles from where you were. The reason you could see it is that you're elevated and there's not a lot of obstruction between you and there on the side of this mountain. There's not, like, the trees kind of block your looking north. So you only see maybe a few miles north. But along this ridge, if you're looking west or east, you can see for 10, 15 miles each way along the ridge lines here. So he kind of flies off, and then you'll have to wait till he comes back.
Yeah, I'd tell him, because the communication range isn't infinite, I'd tell him if he doesn't find anything in like a half an hour to fly back.
Okay. All right. Albrix, you're on your back prone. The ground, the world has stopped shaking.
A little indignantly brush myself off and
I'll help you out.
You got like
I'll
snow in your butt crack.
Take the offered hand and clean myself off and look in the direction where this light or shimmering has come from. I take it that's where the raven flew off to.
Yeah, you can kind of see the raven winging off, but you don't see the shining of it now. You do realize, as you kind of, maybe each of you are talking about it, the ones that saw it and maybe the other ones are asking questions, it seemed like it happened during the shaking, and then it kind of just tailed off as the shaking stopped. It just was there for a second and then just kind of blipped out again.
And perhaps something was revealed during the avalanche that snow from higher up then covered back up again.
I see no reason why we shouldn't head over and look at it.
Yeah, in any case, Edgar will get there first and be able to tell us sooner.
Yeah, so you guys start heading that direction, and Edgar probably goes for, he probably ends up going for a little bit longer than you kind of told him to. Maybe you're starting to get a little bit worried, but then you kind of can catch him out on the horizon. Again, it's a bright, clear blue sky right now. The sun is up at the straight kind of noon position. And in fact, most of you are having maybe a little trouble with just the glare coming off the snow everywhere. You get that snow blindness going after a while. But it's easy to pick him out heading back, and then when he gets into range, he kind of sends you that telepathic message that says he thinks he sees something, but it's definitely he thinks he gives you the, what would he do? The impression of something metallic, and he gives you the impression bigger than him, but he's not really able to describe anything more than that. And he tells you that, it's like an hour flight. But you have no idea how long that's going to take you guys on the ground getting there.
But he would be able to lead us there.
Yeah.
As Alberic sees the raven fly back in, he misses his Kenku bird friend and his yarbling madness, and starts heading in that direction wordlessly.
All right, so this was about noon when this happens. You guys travel for another day, and it's some rough terrain. The way the snow has come off the mountain, it's made certain areas up to higher than your knees, so it's a lot of trudging through. It's a lot of winding down the edge of the mountain to try to find a better path that isn't like on a slant. You go across some outcrops of rocks that get in the way, and you don't quite make it on the rest of this day. So you make camp probably, you think, within just an hour's another travel hour in the morning, but it starts to get dark, and you go ahead and just find a spot where you can camp again. You make camp. We see the regular motions of, you guys are kind of a well-oiled machine as far as getting stuff ready, and you go through the whole thing. You have a nice little defensive encampment. Everybody goes through their watches throughout the night, and we wake up the next morning, and we kind of continue on and trudge towards where Edgar is kind of leading you. So it's about an hour. You weren't too far off on your guess. You guys trudged through a little bit more for about an hour when you kind of come up to an area of what looks to be like a landslide. It's mostly rock and stone, and it looks like the cliff face must have come off, and it's more of like almost like a ramp of broken rock. And Edgar kind of flies off a little bit forward, and then as you guys come around some of this debris and some trees and such, you see Edgar sitting on what looks to be like a metal plate, and it's just like it's buried in some rock, and somehow the way the cliff has come down, and he's just kind of sitting on it, and it's like a dull grayish color, that seems to be probably 50 feet above where you are at. And there's plenty of like stone and cliff face that's just all strewn about, almost as if it's buried most of it. And it's like this square edge that's sticking out, and he's sitting on the square edge part of something metallic gray.
It's in the stone?
It's more like the cliff face has crumbled, and it's all of the stones and big boulders and little boulders and tree branches and stuff that have come from higher up on the mountain cliff face and has came down, and now it's almost like this ramp of stone and rock and debris.
Should have brought dwarf.
Does the grayish corner that's metallic, does it look cut?
From where you're at,
I'll get closer if need be.
Well, it is kind of, think of like what would be a good example of this? The Grand Canyon, big sheer cliff walls. And then when parts of it come down, it almost builds like this ramp of stone and jagged rock and stuff. But that's not necessarily easy to walk up or maneuver in. It's quite treacherous. So as you begin to kind of climb up it a little bit, it shifts again and it rolls around and more of it comes down. And so you kind of stop a moment. And when you're looking at it, you're pretty close. But all you see is it looks almost like a metal box. Just the one corner of a box is sticking out, but there's debris all around it. About 50 feet up. And you see Edgar hop on it a couple of times.
Killian would have approached with Aburix. Would his experience with armor smithing be able to tell him like how kind of like the quality of the metal?
You could probably make a roll. Let's see. Do you have? Is it what's that skill under?
Smith's tools.
Yeah.
What stat?
Yeah, that'd work.
What stat?
I'm gonna think it's either intelligence or wisdom, so probably intelligence. Okay. This is like book knowledge.
That's a 7.
Okay. Yeah, I mean you think it's iron. It's, just it looks iron-like, and as you're looking at it, it looks fairly big, and it's probably not just a small piece. You're only seeing a small piece, but you can't really get much more than that.
Yeah.
Having been plagued by dreams of an adamantium fortress with cut square corners, his yellow eyes narrow as he walks up to it. Is there any familiar feelings as he does?
No, you're not catching anything. Not anything strange.
He's going to keep all that stuff to himself.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems
Well-
like a pile of rocks.
Jubin will look at it and he'll say, well, is this the reason we came here? Should we try to dig it up or dig around it?
Clearly, it's new, undiscovered at this point. So I think we should explore more.
Yeah, regardless of whether or not this is what we came here for, it's something to explore nonetheless. And if it's not, we can always make another trip.
If we, so Killian will get out one of his, he'll get out his sword and he'll start tapping on it. Does it sound hollow inside, or does it sound like it's completely like
It
full?
sound like tapping on what?
On the metal
Oh,
itself.
okay. So
like
if you're
on the
going to try to
top.
climb up to the metal, you're going to first have to do either an athletics or acrobatics check to climb up the debris to get yourself up there.
18.
Oh yeah, you do. So you scrabble yourself up there. Although do you have heavy armor?
I do.
Oh,
So would it be
disadvantage.
disadvantage?
Yeah.
Sure. So
Oh, but you
18.
kill it. So yeah, you're just okay. So what ends up happening, what you notice is it's very loose as you're moving along it, and every third step or so, you kick some down, and then it almost starts like a little mini avalanche for anybody that's down below you, and they have to kind of dodge out of the way. But you kind of scrabble your way up, and it's almost like shree rock or that really loose kind of. It's just jumbly all over, and so you're picking your route to make sure that you don't get buried in more. You're looking at the cliff, and you can see Edgar bouncing on it. So you do finally get up to it, and you're looking right at it, and it does look like it's an old iron plate that looks very big, and when you look at it, it's mostly covered, and the seam of it seems to be, you don't see any rivets and you don't see any bolt or any type of fasteners. It seems to have a very tight seam to it, and when you use your sword to hit it, it's very solid. It's like you almost think it's like a solid block of iron, the way it sounds.
Okay. I would make my way back down, inform everyone else.
And as you do that, you actually kick enough away that you're right at the where the plate comes up, and it goes down. The plate itself goes down about probably about 3 feet. You kick enough away that all of a sudden, just below, it's about 3 feet wide. You see what almost appears to be maybe like it stops, like there's no more plate anymore.
I would say that I'd call out to everyone, just like, we might have something, and I'd start to uncover, like just clearing out a little bit.
Yeah,
if
so
I
you're
could.
you're kind of moving the stuff out, and it takes just a few minutes or so, but it's clear that you're at the bottom of this 3-foot plate. You can see part of the top of it that goes back into the hill. You can now see the bottom of it that seems to go further in, and as you start to clear it out, you actually think there's probably some type of depression or opening behind this. It's like this rock has filled, and this was almost like an overhang, maybe like a 3-foot wide overhang. And now as you begin to move debris, you can see debris inside also. So it's almost like it made like a little mountain of stone and rubble and crud. But you're able to move it away, and you can kind of begin to see, you think it feels like there's something behind it as far as a depression or maybe a cave or maybe some type of opening. It's dark, pitch dark.
So it's like an air vent going into something deeper into the mountain.
You yell that up to him?
Yeah. With all my knowledge of dwarven architecture. Yeah.
What's Killian say? Does it seem like a vent, Killian?
Maybe. It seems like a way in. Definitely could use some help trying to get through, though. It seems quite blocked.
we rope together and make it our way up the mountain safely? The scree pile?
Sure. Does somebody have rope?
And I say that because I've got plate too.
Yeah,
I'm
I can
gonna
take my rope down.
So Killian unwinds rope, and then you're kind of like the anchor, and then they're able to use it to kind of help get themselves up there. And yeah, you're all kind of perched up there. And as you're looking at it, and if you begin to kind of clear some debris, it looks like it's a 3 foot, maybe it's a 3 foot bar solid of iron. You're not sure. But as you begin to look at it, it looks like if you were looking at it straight south, and you begin to clear it away, it goes for quite a while. And then behind it, as he's already kind of cleared out, you can see down what seems to be like a, more rock that goes in, and there must be a cave or something there as you're all kind of peering in.
Jubrin pulls out his shovel and gestures to it. Should we dig?
Yeah, we can. I've got a pick that'll help us break at least some of the big parts.
Same here.
I have big, strong hand.
As they do all that, Alberix's form shudders for a moment as his bones shift and his skin tightens and moves around at odd angles, and he turns into a giant badger. And I'm just going to get to work on this thing.
All right. So it's fairly easy. You guys could spend some time doing this, and you start to clear it out, and you realize that there's definitely a cave entrance opening behind it. It goes for quite a while to the sides. You're able to clear enough out that you could actually stand underneath it and then kind of walk down the inside pile. You can see the bar above you that seems to be like a giant iron bar, and it goes deep into the mountain, and the ceiling above it is much higher than this bar. And as you're looking at it, it's clear that it's something that's been made. As you're using the pickaxe to clear out some of the stone, and as you're using the shovel, a couple of you notice that some of the debris you're moving is brick and is worked stone or carved stone that's either been broken in half or shattered. But it's like you don't find any pieces of worked stone that's any bigger than like maybe a handful. But it's clear there used to be some type of stone structure here that's collapsed in. And like every single piece of it has been shattered into small pieces.
And the bricks don't give any clue in terms of the maker? Like architectural?
Nothing that
anything we've seen before?
No, you wouldn't think of. They don't remind you of any bricks that you've seen. In fact, brick might not be necessarily. It's more like field stone, or not field stone, but like big work stones. Think of like if the pyramid was all the different stones of the pyramid, but they were all broken in half, or the corners have been broken off, and they've been broken into 4, 5, 6 different pieces, and then all of that just strewn out in a big pile.
I will say I do have this as my background feature. That did not show the right one. Hang on.
All right, arcane recovery.
There we go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what you do know. It's not dwarven. It's not elven. It's not human. It's interesting that you would know Yuan-Ti architecture, but it's not Yuan-Ti. But it is built in a way that reminds you maybe of dwarves more than anything else, but clearly not dwarven.
Is it Gith?
It's Gith. It's Gith. Gith Yankee, not Zerai.
Don't mess with me. Get bad on those dudes. I'll get bad. So I'm going to get down with my badger self and clear out well enough space that if we were to need to make some sort of a hasty exit from here, we could do so.
Yeah, so you cleared out and you can actually walk through. And now that you guys have been here enough, you've kind of stamped down the area enough that you could just walk up this pile. Everything's settled in now from where you're moving stuff out and been going up and down and up and down and taking stuff away, and the badger kind of moving stuff all the way down into the inside, which is this dark area. And as you go down into the tunnel, you can tell you're in a space that's big enough that you can't see the sides and you can't see the ceiling. And it just echoes with noise.
I have a dark vision for 30 feet.
And
So
still
what do
don't
I
see
see?
anything. You see darkness. Within the 30 feet, you see the pile of rock that seems to be where you just came down. You're on a stone floor that seems to be cut flagstone-like shapes, square shapes, that seem to run in very perfect angles. But there's a lot of dust and dirt and debris in the area. Like you clear off a little bit of it, and you can see seams and stuff, and like where mortar is and that kind of thing. So it's clearly a worked stone floor of some sort, not just like the bottom of a cave. But you can't see when you look to your left and you look to your right. It's darkness. You don't see walls, and when you look up, you see that bar, but up above and past that, you still don't even see the ceiling. The ceiling must be higher than that, than 30 feet.
I'll go ahead and strike up my bullseye lantern. It has a 60-foot bright, 60-foot dim cone.
Okay. And then you go down and in?
Yes.
Okay. So you're down and in, 60 foot. So that would be... Yeah. So at the very edge to your left, we'll just say you shine it left first. Almost at the edge of the light, you think you see a vertical wall. Probably it's somewhere around the 50-foot mark. And when you shine it over to your right, also about 50 feet that way, the beam hits the side of a wall. So you're guessing that whatever you're standing in is at least 100 feet wide. And when you shine the beam up to the ceiling, you see this iron bar, and you see also the ceiling is probably 60 feet up. You're just guessing.
Waddle my badger ass in there with him.
I'll light a torch and follow.
Okay.
I'll be using the light cantrip on my staff.
Okay. So yeah, we just have like these pools of light. But if it's not that beam that's shooting out, it's just like the walls are so far off and the ceiling's so far off. It's just blackness around you, and then the floor, and then each other. And then we kind of have this scene of all of you kind of coming in, almost like spelunking. We get that cool Steven Spielberg camera shot that's in the cave, looking back out as you guys kind of come in, and the lights are bobbing in from the darkness. And then you're all kind of on the floor, and it's quiet. You're not feeling the cold wind anymore. You're actually feeling a little warmer. In fact, you feel really warm, in fact.
Can I divine sense?
Sure.
I do so.
Yeah, so we see Timur take a moment and concentrate, and nothing seems to prickle your divine sense, your spidey sense.
He'll nod to Killian, because I'm sure Killian knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. Do we see any, is there anything in here, or is it just completely empty?
In this first area, and I'm assuming you're just at the bottom of where the debris kind of stops, it's just, you just see floor at the moment. You don't really see too much else.
No, like, structural pillars or anything like that either?
No.
It's a large room to not have any pillars. Must be very well made.
Yeah, that would stand out to Iravel. And the other thing is, you got in there using kind of that background that you have. It's clear again that the floor is worked stone of some sort. Somebody's worked the stone. This isn't just like a natural cave floor.
What's the air quality and airflow like? Like, does it smell like it's been stale and unopened for a long time, or does it seem like there's other entries perhaps?
It feels a little warm. It feels a little bit of moisture. The humidity in here, like it's a little bit more dry outside, and there's a little bit more moisture here. You almost get this feeling of humidity in here, but you don't get a sense of stale air. You don't. You smell dust for sure, because you guys are tromping around, and you're definitely kicking up a little bit of the dust now. But it's more of like an empty smell, an empty old smell.
I'm gonna
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
As Iravel is shining his lantern around, do we see like any exits to this chamber? Like, is there a doorway somewhere or an archway, that kind of thing?
No, if you pointing the bullseye, it makes it just to the edge. But if you sweep it along, the wall goes away pretty quickly. When you point it forward, the beam doesn't touch anything. And it seems like your direction sense tells you you're going straight south into the mountain range. And then you swing it back over with the beam. You pick up the wall that's about 50 feet over, 60 feet over, but then it's just like, it's gone again. It's just darkness before it picks up the wall again on the left-hand side.
I did want to point out a quick correction that it's a 60-foot bright, but then it's another 60 foot of dim, so it's 120 feet light total.
Okay, same thing actually. So you get the dim light up, you can see the walls with it when you point it at it. But even when you point it straight ahead, it must go on for much longer than that. Now, in the dim light, as you point it forward, probably 100 feet or so down, you think you see stuff on the floor, but you can't quite make it out. It's dim light. You're not sure what it is.
I think our path is clear.
Agreed. We were looking for a cave of some sort. Why not a metal one?
The big old badger sniffs the air for a second. Tell me if I smell anything strange. They've got pretty good sense of smell. And shakes its fur a little bit and then starts waddling forward.
Okay. So give me a perception check with smell. If you have, if it says advantage for smell, you can roll that. So we get a roll of a 21. That's pretty good. So your badger nose is picking up dust, your humidity, iron, a heavy, heavy scent of iron, and then a very faint smell of maybe rotted wood, and probably you think maybe some other type of rotted material. Maybe it was organic in some way, but not anything you can pinpoint.
Just gonna waddle on forward and lead the way. I'm gonna roll some hit dice for this badger too.
I'll draw my sword and follow the badger.
Okay. So lights are out, swords are out, weapons are out. You get most of the iron smell seems to be coming from above you, whereas most of the dust and the dirt and some of the maybe rotted wood smell, but it's super faint. Like it must have been here for a very long time. Is at the floor level as you're picking out the smells. As you're getting closer with the light, you're seeing like little piles of stuff. And as you get up to it, you can see some rotted wood. You can see some caved in stone seems to be on the ground here. And then just probably within a couple 100 feet of the main entrance there, you get your first gleam of what looks to be like the white of bone in a pile or some type of debris up ahead.
Since it's been well and truly over an hour since I originally cast False Life, would you like me to re-roll it again, or do we go with the last roll?
Yeah, you can go with the
'Cause
last roll. It's fine.
No worries.
It's a cantrip then?
It's a Eldritch Invocation. I can
Oh,
cast
gotcha.
it as many.
Yeah, no problem.
It's a great one to have for a squishy sorcerer.
Well, if we all see the bones, Kirian would make his way over to him to see.
Okay. So yeah, you see what looks to be like two skeletons, one on top of the other. You see rotted wood, which looks to be attached to maybe like a rotted wood spear shaft, and then a rusted to the point of pretty gnarly spear point. It looks like the way the bodies are here that they struggled and died. Obviously fighting or something. Not sure what would have caused. The death is obviously probably the spear point in the rib cage of the one. And then as you're looking, you're not sure what killed the other one.
I mean, does it look like they were fighting each other or something else?
You kind of get that impression.
So they were fighting each other or something else?
You think they were fighting each other.
Okay. Just to be safe, Kieran's going to use his divine sense and see if these are undead.
So you concentrate for a moment, and nope, they do not. They do not appear to radiate undead.
I'm going to try to clear away the rubble in the middle of the room and see if there might be anything underneath that was buried.
Near the bones, or like one of the other rubble piles that are just off. They're kind of all over the place where you guys are.
You had said that there was a section that looked like there had been a cave-in in particular. I was going to try and
so
clear
you kind of
that
move
out.
over to that. Sure. Yeah, well, you kind of start moving rock and what it looks like is some wood of some sort. And as you touch the wood, it just disintegrates. I mean, it's like so old and so decrepit that as soon as you even start to move it, it's just so brittle that it falls apart. What's the rest of the group doing while you're kind of moving that off? What are you doing with Edgar during that too? We probably should know where your Raven is.
Yeah, I was going to mention that since I don't believe he can see in the dark, he is just going to be back in his pocket dimension where he's safe.
Okay. So we got Killian near the bones. Drubin, yep.
Drubin will be looking at the bones as well. There's no other items around them.
It looks like they must have worn some type of, maybe it was a hide, maybe it was some type of leather, maybe, but it's so decrepit and brittle that even when you just touch it or move it, it just falls apart. It's obvious that whatever this is, there's dust all over it. It's been here a super long time. For even the little metal parts of anything are so rusted through and so brittle that they even the spear tip itself has cracks in it and little parts where the metal has just come apart from age. I mean, it looks clearly like it's been here a long, long, long time.
About how big are the corpses? Are they like halfling sized, dwarf sized, human sized, bigger?
The corpses seem to be about... let me go to my notes here a second. One of them is probably about, you would have guessed, maybe a 6 foot tall. One of them is probably somewhere around 5 foot tall. And as you're looking at the skeletons, you recognize that one of them only has 3 toes that have little claws at the end of them. The other one has 4. And as you look at the skulls of these things, they have a lot of jagged teeth in these weird, almost animalistic looking skulls. It is clearly not human skulls. It is clearly not like an elven or dwarven skull. It's not the skull of a plant eater. It's not like square wedged teeth. This is like very sharp, kind of mandible style teeth sticking out of these things. One of them has a 3-fingered hand. The other one has a 4-fingered hand. All of the skin is gone at this point. There is no skin whatsoever. There's no hair that you can see. It's like bleached bone at this point. And some of the bones have cracked and have crushed down. And it's kind of hard to see. It's not like it's a, like a science room skeleton in perfect condition or anything like that. It's like finding a partial skeleton or pieces of broken full skeleton, but parts have fallen over. The rib cage parts have fallen off and over. The head's not attached to anything, but it's there. You get the impression looking at it that they have fallen on each other, but it's clear that the bones have all come apart.
Okay. Last thing Kieran's going to look for is, does he find a tailbone, perhaps, like at the hips? He does have a bit of medical knowledge. So he's just looking to see, because he has a suspicion that it might be like a lizard folk versus a dragonborn. But
yeah, let me just be sure. Let me bring up one little picture for myself just so I'm not wrong. Because that is
lizard folks have tail and dragonborns don't.
That is a fantastic. One of them does have a full-on tail. You see the bones of the tail. 4 fingers on the hand, but 3 toes on the feet. All end in kind of almost like claw shapes, though they still can grasp things, it looks like. There seems to be a bony ridge of some sort that goes along the skull and down the spine. So it has a kind of a deformed spine. The other one, the one that seems to be underneath it, let me look at that a second. That one would be no tail. It has 5 fingers. I was wrong. So this one has a normal looking hand, though the skull looks odd. And it has 4 toes, but smaller, definitely smaller.
So with Driven right next to him, he would just be like, so different clans. Wonder who was attacking who and why. I mean, we're not seeing anything yet. Maybe they took it, or maybe it's more secure.
I think we should go farther in.
Drubin clearly looks baffled, but in seeing the possible insight from Killian, he just pats him on the shoulder and nods and casts guidance.
So these guys, while they're talking about these skeletons, hear the pitter patter of the badger feet as he just continues in, sniffing the air and heading into this structure.
Okay, so you're kind of in the center area of the room, and you begin to keep finding more and more piles of bones. Sometimes it's groups of one of the creatures, sometimes it's mixed groups of both, sometimes it's the other group of the creatures. Every time you find them, it looks like they had stuff that they did wear, but as you touch it or kind of move it around or kick it around, it kind of just falls apart. The weapons that they must have been using must have been made of wood and some metal parts, but all of that seems to be kind of stuff that's broken apart. And even if you move it, it doesn't seem like it stays together.
Unless anything shines like gold, silver, steel, or anything, gems, the badger pads on, sniffing and waddling.
Could they have suffocated in here under a cave?
Most of the bodies, none of them seem to be in piles of rock or anything like that. The more you go through, And the more you're looking at, and remember, you guys are kind of in the center of the room area here. And so you're just seeing different piles here and there. You would probably almost think that you've stumbled upon some type of battlefield, some type of battle.
From the scraps of decrepit wood in the area, could it be reasonably discerned that these used to be defensive positions that were established?
As you're looking at most of the wood that remains, here and there, it might be near the bodies. It typically seems to be handles of weapons that have rotted away for the most part. But then there's other places where you see kind of like a big pile of wood that seems to be more wood than would be necessary. But as you're looking at it, parts of it almost seem like you get the impression of maybe a basket or some type of weaving of almost like more like a bamboo or that kind of fibrous type of wood, versus this isn't like oak or spruce that's been cut into planks, and this isn't like trees that have been sharpened into stakes or anything like that. This is almost like basket woven things that have used to be baskets but have just deteriorated away. And some of them seem very large.
It's a battlefield. Let us advance through.
Now, did I manage to uncover anything at all in my attempt to dig through the cave-in at all, or no?
As you're going through the stones and stuff, it doesn't seem like you find anything in it. And it seems like whatever it was, it looks like on this they were stones that are probably consistent with the same material that the floor is made out of. Seems to be like that same type of stone.
So something burst up rather than down.
Well, as you kind of study it, you almost think like that stuff was in the baskets, but the baskets have deteriorated around it.
Okay. Now, I'll proceed with the rest of the group then if I don't see anything else.
Okay. So you guys walk. And you walk. How far would you walk before you started to get nervous?
Is it all dead bodies as we're walking? Constantly?
Yeah, here and there. It's not like it's carpeted, but it's piles of them here and there. Go a couple 100 feet, piles. Go a couple 100 feet, piles. You have no idea what's off on the edges.
Yeah, we still can't see the sides, and we've not passed anything else beside corpses.
Yeah.
As we move, I'll be offering a prayer to the Raven Queen, because I'm sure she would be very interested in the forgotten site of a battlefield where many have died.
All of you can roll a investigation. Now, my assumption is, are you moving quickly or are you moving slowly enough that you would pick out stuff, and you're going slow enough that you actually would see stuff? Or are you just like, we just want to get through this and go, so I'm not going to pay attention to stuff?
Not at a jog, I'm sure.
Right now, we don't have any reason to move fast.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd definitely be picking through stuff.
All right, so so you see a pile and you might scrabble a little bit, and you move on. So everybody, go ahead and roll an investigation check for me. And this is over. Okay, so this is over quite a while. So at one point, Iravel, and this is probably an hour in, you've been heading straight south. You guys have been going, looking at piles, seeing piles. It's obviously a big battlefield of something. One of the bodies that you come across, you see one of the daggers that is lodged in what used to be the rib cage of something else, seems to be in pristine condition.
Go ahead and, if the party will indulge me for a quick 10-minute break, I'll go ahead and cast Detect Magic on it.
Alberix is changed back into his normal self after this time has elapsed.
Okay. What does that change look like?
More stretching of bones and skin as it warps into unnatural forms, and it bends in half. This badger bends in half, and then the center arises, and then like the gith kind of stretches out of it.
Cool.
And I'll hang out until he catches his spell.
Okay. So we see him start a 10-minute ritual. We hear his arcane mutterings echoing off the walls. What does the group do while he's kind of going through his 10-minute ritual here?
I'm going to cast light on some stones and toss them as far as I can to look about us and see what we can see.
Druben would be mimicking that behavior, seeing Alberix do that and go, oh, that's not a bad idea.
All right. Yeah. So one thing you notice probably, you throw kind of one stone out and you're in the middle area. So maybe about 20 feet over. So it would have just been outside of your normal torchlight and the lights you guys were using. And it looks like it's kind of like some type of debris. But as the stone gets closer to it, you realize it looks like an intact basket. And it's about the size that you could fit maybe 3 or 4 people in it. And it seems to be woven of some type of reed-like material, but like a large reed style. And it's all woven intermixed with each other. And it's in a round bowl shape, and it's kind of canted over on its side. From the middle seems to come up all of the stalks of this stuff that seems to be wrapped and bound. And it goes up, and it goes about 10 feet above the basket. And it ends what looks to be like in a hook, almost, of bounded reeds.
So Alberix picks the stone up with his telekinesis and lifts it into the air to the edge of his vision, or to his power, to see if there are any sort of rope or connection or whatever, because I think this is some sort of an elevator or platform to deliver people.
Yeah, so your light kind of goes up, and then what you see on the ceiling is this huge iron contraption that's above you and has been hanging above you. And off of this contraption, it seems to be about maybe 20 to 30 feet wide. And it's iron as far as the eye can see. And then hanging down off of each side of it, every now and then, you see what looks to be like an iron bar that comes down and ends in a round hook, fisheye kind of hook, or a opening that looks like the basket would fit into that eye hole. And it hangs off of some type of metal contraption above you that's just made of wrought iron.
How high above us do you think that is?
The contraption itself is at least 40, maybe 50 feet above your head. The eye hooks that hang down come down a little bit further, but they're off on the distance, and they're definitely where you're in the middle. It's clear you're right on the middle of it, and these things are, 30 feet out, 30 feet out to your sides. And you see them almost as you're looking around. There's some huge contraption above you, and it goes as far as you can see south down the tunnel, and it goes as far back as you can see back the way you came.
Irovel pauses for just a moment in his ritual, seeing this, and goes, huh. And then he goes back to chaos.
It would seem that this is some sort of delivery for those who have fought and died here.
Is it for people, or is it for, well, those baskets seem pretty big enough to transport ore.
So as Killian says that, Albirix lowers the stone that he has telekinetically moved over the top of this thing and then peers into the basket.
All right, so you're looking south, the one on, and this is on the left-hand side. So this would be on the east side of the tunnel. You look in that basket, and it seems to be filled with stone.
I think you are correct. It's a sort of transport for whatever mining operation we've had here, they've had. We should, after he casts his ritual, move forward and find out what they are unearthing.
So
How far away was the basket?
it's about 30 feet from the center. You guys have been walking down
Okay.
almost the exact center of this place, and it's about 30 feet off.
So I guess in the remaining time for the ritual, Keelan would go over to the stones and start inspecting it to see what kind of ore it is, if it's any.
Okay. So, yeah, we see you kind of climbing around. And even as you kind of get up on the side of the basket, because the edges of it come up higher than you actually are, it just breaks apart, and it kind of, the wood of just disintegrates into dust, and the rocks kind of fall out as you're looking at them. And just as that happens, the ritual, and you were casting Detect Magic?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, you see that this dagger, which has a kind of a silver light to it, is definitely magic in some way.
Can I detect what school of magic it is?
It would have whatever a normal magic item would have. Not something that would do something, but something that is just considered magical.
Okay. I'll go ahead and
Maybe it's enchanting?
Where am I finding this again? Oh, yeah, probably enchanting.
In a group of
But,
the bodies. It kind of stuck out
I'll go
because
ahead
it
and,
looked pristine.
I'll go ahead and pocket it for now.
Yeah, it's basically like a +1 dagger. Just, it has a silvery look to it, though you're not sure if it's silver or not.
All right. And I'll head over to check out that basket with everybody else.
So the stones are definitely feel like they're the material of the mountain that you're in. You recognize this type of stone that would have fallen off the cliff face. You recognize this is the type of stone that if you were digging into this mountain, you think it would be the type of rock you would be pulling away.
There's no slope to this pathway at all, though, right?
That's a very good question. You can do a perception check or an investigation, whichever one you would like to try. Oh, let me go and look at what you rolled on your screen. A 14. So you're
Once somebody explains what the actual contraption is to me, because I'm not smart enough to understand a mining rig.
So north and south, you detect no grade whatsoever. You feel pretty confident that it's been straight as can be. You do recognize that as it slopes to the walls ever slightly, it feels like that the center is a tiny bit higher, and it must slope just gently to the edges, to the east and the west. But it's super minute. Like, it's not noticeable.
The center of the pathway then is essentially higher than the outside edge?
Yeah, you think so.
I can't imagine why they would do that. Water flow?
That's what I was thinking,
Outside.
drainage.
Well, there's only one way to go then, just down, right? Or
South.
down the tunnel.
All right. You guys keep going. You keep poking through stuff. You keep finding more things. You've traveled for a full day. You're still in this enormous built tunnel.
Is there a basket? As we've been traveling and we get close to realizing that we're going to have to camp, is there any intact baskets that are near us?
At the moment, you don't see any, and the bodies probably have stopped after you walked about an hour and a half in, and then it just kind of stopped, and then it's just this enormous tunnel that's heading straight south. Now the thing is still above you that you can see, and you can still see the eye hooks that hang off them, and they're spaced probably 50 feet apart. Most of them don't have baskets, but every now and then one of the baskets has survived and you see it. And it's just spotty at most. You know, you could walk 10 minutes and not see one, and then you do, and then you walk another 15 minutes and you might see one. You'll see half broken ones. Most of them are just debris piles on the ground that are no longer even hardly recognizable, except that you've seen what an intact one looks like.
As we've traveled and it's obvious that it's getting late, Albirix is going to go over to them, and we should start gathering these because we'll need a fire for the night. Obviously, this is where we will sleep.
You
I was going
definitely
to ask. I'm sorry. In the baskets that we've seen in our travels since the first one, have they all only ever had more stone in them? Nothing else besides that?
The ones that you've seen that are on the east side seem to have had stone in them. The ones that are on the west side seem to be empty.
So it's a waste material removal system then.
For them to dig deeper.
It seems they've dug quite a long way.
It's true. At some point during the travels, I mean, I think Killian, if not the group, would have attempted to find like the sidewalls.
Okay.
Do they just appear to be like flat walls or anything like that, or have we noticed anything in particular about them?
They are walls, and when you get over to the edges, you notice that on the edge there is a gully that is dug in at the corner. So there's like some type of gully. The walls are made of stone, but they're all worked. So they all have intricate architecture all along the wall sections. So they're carved in edges to make it look like almost like fake pillars. You know, they just carve the edge of the side tunnel of the mountain to make it look like it's, you know, different architectural things. And it just goes the entire length of the walls. Looking at it, you think that is a lot of work. Like, that is a huge undertaking to do hour after hour. You've clearly went probably more than 8 or 9 miles into this thing already. Timor, one other thing you would have picked up with your perception roll, you think it's getting hotter. And whatever created this is a huge engineering feat. This is on the level of a dwarven city. This is on the level of stuff you've heard about in the Underdark, or huge. Even a castle is less work than this would have been. Building all of Bastion is less work than this would have been.
Looking around at the others with this realization, Kieran would just be like, could this be where the dragon is?
Well, this far up the tunnel, I don't think so, but you know, who knows where the tunnel leads to farther into that mountain range. If there's an active volcano we're heading towards, or, you know, I don't know.
It's possible. Did resemble them. At least some of them.
You know, we have companions who are dragonkin. Dan, would that biologically match up then with the dragonkin form?
No, none of the skeletons you've seen would you have thought, hey, that's a dragonborn. You can do a nature check to see if you can try to figure it out. It'll be a pretty hard DC, but you guys have been rolling pretty good.
Okay.
I'll give that a try as well.
Yeah. Let's pool our knowledge and see if we can figure out what the race was.
as everybody's talking about this, Albirix is going to not only help whoever is going to make this discernation and cast guidance.
So is Drupin.
21.
Who'd you cast it on?
They both got 17s.
Right, but you still have to decide.
I think we should all pool our knowledge and just take the best. How about that?
Well, if someone helps the other person, they get doggone advantage.
Yeah, I just need to know who you cast it on.
Timor was the one talking.
That
so
Timor suggests it, but there's got to be somebody in this party who's better at biology
We'll just
than
have
a
Irabel
paladin.
be the one with guidance.
I have the +4 to int if that matters.
Yeah, that's fine. Just as long as I know which one. Yeah, so Iravel, you think you can recognize one of them. You think the ones with the tails are probably troglodytes. It's something you've seen before or encountered before. The second thing, whatever they were battling, you're not sure.
Troglodytes are swamp creatures. They probably wouldn't build something like this, though, right? They might be stupid enough to attack something like this.
Yeah, Iravel would think you have not heard of troglodyte architecture. It'd be more primitive. It would be more. They can live in caves. They can be common in the Underdark areas. They can also be common in swamps or things like that. But you wouldn't think like nobody's ever heard of a troglodyte city or a troglodyte castle, things like that.
It is possible one of two things spring to mind. Either they saw this as a cave that they could call their home and attacked it, or perhaps whoever was building this tunnel managed to dig into a cave that they had already claimed.
I would say that these mechanized things above us and the mining operation that we're seeing is something far beyond lizard folk or salamander people or what other cretinous things that you speak of. I think that these things have come after this. This is the work of something I wouldn't think capable of these planes. From what I've heard, the prime material rarely offers up things of this nature. I'm pleasantly surprised.
I'm eager to get up in the morning and go.
Yeah, we've made good time in getting here. Can't imagine we won't make good time getting back. I think we can spend another day at least, if need be.
At some point while we're camping, I'm going to try to figure out how the basket mechanisms would actually function and just kind of sketch that out. I have an ink pen and ink and paper.
Yeah, so you investigate it, and what you find is from the middle part, it just looks like it's an iron plate that there's stuff up on top of it. And as you're looking at it from the side, you think you see what looks to be an enormous size iron chain on its side, and welded to the chain is these eye hooks that come down into an eye, and something would move that chain, and these baskets would have the way the bamboo is all tied up together would fit into those hooks, and they could just put them on the hooks and they would go all along this tunnel. It's clear that there's a mechanism that moves up in the top kind of rafter area of this metal contraption.
I could get us up there if you wanted.
he desperately wants us to start that mechanism up and wake up the whole mountain. So no, I think that's a horrible.
It could make for a quick exit if we need to leave in a hurry, though.
Let's cross that bridge when we come to it.
You guys have found Walt Disney World. That's what you.
This is the Matterhorn ride.
Yeah.
Welcome to Earth. So we continue south. Is that what I'm hearing? After you camp, have a full night's sleep. All right. Another half a day of travel. At least another 8 miles goes by. You're pretty sure you were well into and underneath the mountain range, the enormous mountains that were above you. It's slowly, the temperature has risen, and it's about halfway through the day. Out front, you see a soft reddish glow off in the distance, further than what your lights are pushing. So there's like a space of darkness, but it's obviously further down. There is a soft reddish glow up ahead.
I assume it's still been getting warmer and warmer the more we proceed as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do I smell anything interesting coming from that direction?
Like
nothing sulfury or...
No, yeah, you're definitely getting a sulfury smell at this point. You do realize, though, I think it would be something that stands out, that it's not stuffy. It's not stale air, or like you haven't hit pockets of dead air or anything. Somehow, some way, ventilation has been pretty good in this whole endeavor.
Yeah, the AC turned on. Nice.
Yeah. Though it's been getting hotter. And
I'll suggest
feels
that
moist.
We douse our torches or whatever light source we have the moment that whatever source down there provides enough light for us so that we don't surprise anything coming out of this.
Well, it's definitely a very faint glow. And when you go into absolute darkness, like you just kind of hide your lights for just a moment, it's pitch black around you. You can see the very, very, very soft glow up ahead, but it's not like enough to show what's in front of you. You wouldn't know if there's a pit in front of you, or you wouldn't know if the floor is still in front of you. It's still that dark. It's not giving off enough light to like light up the whole cavern. It's a very faint, near the floor level, reddish light. Probably, I bet it's 100 yards from where you guys are standing. About 100 yards out. In the pitch black. With your lights on, it's a little bit harder to see, but when you go pitch black, it's a little easier to see.
Well, we at least know there is something down here.
Based on the fact that we don't see too much light spreading from it in our direction, the most likely answer is that it's light coming up from a pit in the ground and not a light source directly ahead of us.
We'll never find out if we stay in this tunnel.
Aye.
All right, you guys move forward. Let's give you some visuals so it helps you kind of figure out what you're seeing. Let me grab...
Pretty sure this tunnel is just big enough for a dragon to fit down.
You were sure it's big enough to fit a dragon.
Yeah, the one we fought was fairly small, so there could be several of them of that size.
All right.
Dragon swarm. Nice.
I'll put you at the back of the cave there. I'm assuming your lights are out, so I don't have any lights set on for you guys, but you all should be able to see light. Can you see light? Let's check.
No, I can't see anything.
Oh, okay, let me check.
Like the circles of light around the red markings?
Yeah, the circles around the redness a little bit further on. Oh yeah, let me fix these tokens real quick. And if you turn light on, let me know, and I'll actually put the light around you guys. I'm assuming you're kind of standing in the dark at the moment.
Well, that bullseye lantern can be pretty directional, right? I mean, I just figured if we're going to come out of a tunnel entrance, we shouldn't announce our presence.
I think you could. I mean, you think there's floor ahead of you. I was just saying it's like being in the dark and there's a faint light ahead, not a bright light. I don't want you to think it's like bright. And you guys can kind of form yourself any way you can. Now, you have seen what seems to be like a more debris on the floor around this area. You think some parts of the ceiling might have caved in the last, hour that you've been walking. You've seen little bits of it, and you can even you've had to walk around some bigger pieces of rock that have been in the way.
I
Also, I'm not
apologize.
able to see anything other than the light coming from. I don't have dark vision active on my token.
Oh yeah, let me do. Who has dark vision? I'll put that on for people.
I'm going to cast light on myself because, well, I didn't listen to Tamor.
I didn't realize it was just coming from like holes in the floor. I thought it was actually like coming down the tunnel. So, but that looks like it's holes in the floor.
So I'll put. So let's go through dark vision. Who has that?
I think it's just Hiravel, because I don't
Let me get
think
my
Gith
headphones
have
on just a
dark
second.
vision.
Okay, now I can hear.
Now they've waffled back and forth as to whether Gith can or cannot have it.
So Iravel probably. He's a
Yeah, I
shadow
have
cat.
60 foot.
60.
Yeah.
Just
I don't think
Iravel.
anybody else gets it, because I don't think Furbolgs get it either.
We get a bunch of other stuff, not that.
I almost took Devil's Sight.
I'm glad you didn't. Nobody likes a devil worshiper.
All right, and so you cast light. So go ahead and put that in the text there, so I can. And you're casting it on what, Albrix?
On a ball bearing that I will keep out in front of me with Mage Hand.
Okay. How much does it light up?
Same as the torch, so 40-20.
40-20.
Should I be able to see through Iravel's dark vision?
Oh shit, dude. I don't have light. Thought I did.
Druben does, if we need to.
So make that a torch held out with Mage Hand.
Got it. No, Druben. Let's see. Does Druben have?
At this point, Druben would cast light on his quarterstaff, but I think I can see the light from Iravel's dark vision. Like I can see like the dim light sort of thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you might have his token
Like-
set to everyone sees.
Yeah. Oh, Iravel's. Maybe I do.
Are you insinuating that the elf is your familiar and you can see through him?
Yes.
No
Yes.
comment.
All right.
It's
there
an
you go.
interesting chain relationship between him, myself, and Edgar.
That devil worshiping shit's working out great then.
So what we'll do is let me show our audience real quick what you guys are seeing. And I'm going to leave this up for just a moment, but what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a quick 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and we will let them decide what they are going to do. So stay tuned,
Fight the dragon.
and we'll be right back. we're back. Let's get going. Let's take you over to the battle map. You guys have been looking at our lovely faces as we've been role-playing through most of this tunnel. But let's bring you into some visuals and show you the map that they see. So you guys can kind of arrange yourself the way you think you would be. What would you like to do? Who's in front? Who's in back?
I'd probably be standing like just behind one of the armored fellows.
Yeah. I guess Timur and I would just make our way forward.
Yeah.
Knowing what we typically do.
Yeah, so it's clear that as you're coming down the tunnel, off to your right-hand side seems to be several large collapsed boulders. Must have come from the ceiling at some point. This is the first time you've seen a large chunk of the floor appears to be damaged, and there's definitely a reddish light coming out of it. And you can feel the heat wafting off of these two areas.
Out of curiosity, I'm going to check these boulders and see if I see any signs of obsidian in them.
You're going to check them for what?
For signs of obsidian.
All right, so you begin to kind of look at them. I mean, they're pretty big boulders. It take you a little bit to go over them. So yeah, as you guys get closer, it's warmer. Now it's clear that the reddish light is coming up from the floor. It looks like the floor has been cracked and damaged. And as you get closer to the edge, you think that there's definitely like that sulfury lava kind of smell. And you can kind of just see over the edge of it. And it's probably about 2 feet down from the actual edge. Of these couple of holes that you see here that seem to be giving off the red light.
So it just looks like there's red at the bottom of these crevices kind of thing? Like it doesn't seem like there's, is there lava in the pits?
Yeah, if you get a little bit closer, you'd be able to see that there is, yeah, you would be able to see that there's lava. And as you get to the edges, you kind of notice that there may have been a time where it actually had come up, and you can see how it's deformed the floor and the stone around it, but it's obviously much lower now at this point, and it just kind of bubbles. But it's a lot of heat coming up out of that hole too. In Ironville, I would say most of this rock, it definitely looks like the typical stone that you would see in this mountain range. You're not seeing anything that stands out as being different stone. You really think that it probably came from the ceiling.
Okay.
Shield forward. Alberix will move into this area.
Yeah, debris strewn across the floor, mostly just stuff that looks like it's fallen. And then right about there, you guys can go ahead and select your tokens and roll initiative. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, let me get the tracker up. That probably will help too. Let me clear it. Oof, sorry. I'll put Killian's on there again, so he got 11. Clear. So Killian, roll again, but I'll switch it back to 11. All right, and let me grab my thing here. All right, so Iravel. Okay. So you hear just as you guys are moving farther forward, you see Killian kind of backing away from the hole, and you hear a splash over to your right-hand side coming from the hole. It is your turn.
I will warn the others that I've heard something. And so that would be my right if I'm facing the south end of the screen, correct?
Yeah, I'll ping it. This one here.
Yeah, I'll warn the others that I heard something in that direction. And I'm not going to activate Blade Song yet. I'm just going to ready my weapons and kind of take a defensive posture.
All right. So are you readying an action, or are you just...
I'm just going to take the dodge action.
Oh, okay. So you'll take a dodge. So let's put that on there so we remember. We'll do that one. How about that? All right. So we hear some splashing from the pool. And out of it, can I do this? Let's see. Oh no, here we go. Out of it comes something that looks like this. You guys see it?
Damn.
Swirling out. So let's put it on the map here.
Oh boy.
You said something, not some things.
Thankfully, they are smaller than the picture makes them out to be.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an initiative for each of them, I think, just to keep it fair. Here we go. And then this one. Okay, I think that's good enough. And let's get descending one more time. There we go. So the first one moves. So you see it slither out, and it looks like a big kind of constrictor style snake on fire, dripping lava as it begins to move 5, 10, 15, 20 towards Iravel, who has blades out, begins to start dancing around as this thing comes up out of this lava and then lunges at Iravel. So here we go. So we see a bite try to happen. And let's see, can you guys see all this stuff? Hold on. Make sure this character sheet is correct. There we go. Auto damage, advantage toggle, whisper toggle. Oh yeah, all that stuff's on. Okay. So it's normal to the public. Here we go. So here's the bite. So a 9 would miss, and then it tries to lash out with its tail and misses. All right, Timur, you are up.
Throw a javelin.
All right.
And I will throw it at the one that just attacked Iravel.
Yeah, currently you don't see the other two. You might be able to hear the splashing at this point, but they haven't come up over the edge to be able to see them. I'm waiting to see.
Help if I clicked on the right thing.
There it goes. A 25 would sink in to this creature for 8 piercing damage. You hear the javelin begin to sizzle and crackle.
I've lost a javelin.
The wooden part lights on fire.
make a torch, maybe cast some light.
It's a little light, yeah. A little bit of light.
Do the fire snakes give off light?
Not technically. Anything else, Timur?
No.
Okay. That brings us to Elbrix. You were up. You kind of look back over your shoulder as something has slithered out of one of these lava pools.
All right. I am going to hold my action until after the other snakes have gone. And I'm going to move.
So you're going to hold your action to do a move?
I'm going to hold my action until after the other snakes have done whatever they're going to do.
You have to say what your trigger is. What are you going to do here?
When the last snake has left the lava pool, I will act.
You got to say what it is.
I'm going to cast Ice Knife.
Yeah, gotcha. You're going to cast a spell. Gotcha. Okay. All right. So the next one goes, which is that one. So up out of the ridge, 5, 10, gets up to the edge, 15, 20, 25, 30. Gets up to that spot. And we'll try the same thing against Timur. So we get a bite out of 5, rolling terrible. And a tail, 17. Probably not
Close.
enough. All right. So we're at Killian.
All right. So with this, Killian is going to charge forward.
Perception check before you move.
Okay. That is an 18.
You hear splashing behind you.
Okay. I am going to say that there's more over here, but I'm still going to make my way forward.
Okay.
Okay. And I am going to go right here. Pulling out my longsword as I do so, I'm going to make a strike.
Cool. Strike.
With a 9, I'm sure that misses.
A 9 misses.
Okay. And that's my turn.
All right. That brings us to others. Yeah, this guy. So again, towards the edge first. Gets to the edge, and then Killian's the closest. So he makes his way to here. And will attempt to bite Killian. Misses completely. And then a tail slash. So apparently I'm not going to hit anybody tonight. So this is going to be nice and easy for you guys. Also misses. So that brings us to Druprin.
It's a critical miss. Does he break a
Break a tooth.
lava tooth or something?
A big fang.
Well, Drubin's gonna move over to here, and then he's gonna cast Hex on the northernmost fire snake. And as he does that, you see his trunk pull out of his component pouch, an Eye of Newt, and then you see the tattoos on his trunk go out, and a dark shadow appears around the fire snake.
Awesome. This would give you more damage against it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Anything else for Drubin?
Then he's gonna do the normal warlock thing and Eldritch Blast.
Yeah. What does your Eldritch Blast look like?
You see the tattoos again come up, form a spike, and then fire directly towards the target.
Cool.
Does an 11 hit?
11 streaks by it as it's kind of moving around and trying to get to Iravel, and it just passes by it. Goes off into the distance.
Oh, and I guess he has disadvantage on, I don't know, dexterity checks.
Okay. So that brings us to the top of round number 2. Iravel, You can feel the heat wafting off of this thing. What would you like to do? Round number 2.
All right. As my standard fare has been given a little bit of a bump with that new dagger, I'm going to go ahead and make an attack with my short sword, and I need to set that up yet. For the time being, for the sake of convenience, I'll do the dagger as my main attack and my short sword as my offhand, because I already have one programmed for that.
Okay.
Does a 13 hit?
It misses. Ooh.
And that definitely misses then.
The 9 also misses. Interesting. Everybody's dice are cold tonight all of a sudden. All right, so we see a dagger slash out and a sword miss, and this thing just kind of wiggles around all of it while trying to snap at you and strike you and hit you. But all a miss so far. Your dodge would be done, so let's take that away. And the hex is still on him, so we leave that. All right, so we go to our next creature, which was the top one. So it's still interested in trying to latch on to Iravel here, so we'll get a bite attack. 10 would be a miss, and a tail lash.
When I see it starting to like wrap around him, I'm going to use my protection to give it disadvantage.
Okay.
As I'm just trying, I see it charging forward and like trying to wrap around, and I'm just gonna like slam my shield down into its tail, try to get it to stop.
Okay. Can you do it after you see the roll?
No, I meant to do it.
No problem.
before
I'm
the
just
roll,
asking.
but-
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 8 would stop then, because I don't know if the 19 would hit either though. Your Blade Song's not on yet. Is it?
No, I didn't activate it yet, so
Okay.
that would have hit.
Okay. So yeah. So the 8 makes it so the shield hits the tail, so it can't latch on. Which then means Killian takes 2 fire damage.
Okay.
All right, that is its turn. It's going to stay there, not move away. That brings us to Timor. Timor's up.
Timor is going to draw Patron and cut at the one.
The super cool sword. 17 is a hit. Let's see. So that's going to be 10 slashing. Which does that. And
What's the 1d10 on the other side?
I think it's the versatile.
Yeah.
It's weird though because it doesn't include strength or the magic bonus. That's kind of a weird way to run that.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're just. I don't know.
I dragged that longsword off the roll 20.
There's a checkbox if you open up the item options next to damage 2 if you wanted to just remove it entirely.
Yeah, it's weird. All right, yeah, I'll take that off.
You hit, you strike, and you put a big slash across its flank. But you take 3 fire damage as you do that. And then let me go. Oh, I got to do one other thing here. Move this a second. And this one. There we go. So that's going to be just above. So I'll have him go here in a second. And then that's going to go there also. Okay. Anything else for Timor?
No, he holds his, well, you know.
And you're using the sword with sword and shield, right? I assume. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's going to actually move up closer to that position.
Okay. Yep. That is okay. You maneuver your way around. One of these other creatures comes up out of the pit. So 5. It takes a look around. And then goes 10, 15, 20, 25. Gets up next to Alberix. And it's going to try to bite Alberix. Does a 15 hit?
It does not. It catches shield.
Nice. And then a tail for 5. Also a miss.
Did Alberix use his reaction that he set up before?
No, I missed that last turn.
Oh. You could still cast the spell if you want.
That's all right, man.
Okay. It is Alberix's turn.
All right, Alberix at this point will open his character sheet.
That's a good start.
I keep shutting mine to look at the map.
You guys can, if you want, if you double click on your name, it minimizes it, but then you can double click it back up, which is what I do with all my character sheets because I got a bunch of them open.
You can also alt double click on the token itself to pop up it.
So Alberix will use his bonus action to have his staff alight with psychic energy, which is
Cool.
And then the one in front of Timur has not been damaged.
I believe that's the one he hit.
That's the one he did.
hit.
I'm going to lash out at that one.
Okay. Yep, 21 would hit.
Solid rolls.
11 points of damage as he jams it into this thing's throat.
Yeah, you hear bone crack and crush and nearly knock it to the ground. It's spewing out fire and lava, and the blood of it catches fire as it sprays all across the floor. It's not quite out, but you feel like if you hit it again, it will be. And you take 3 fire damage. From the extreme heat of these things coming off of them.
Yep.
It's clear being within even just 5 feet of them is making it very hard for you to fight. All right. Anything else for Alberix?
All right. That was it.
Okay. So this creature gathers itself. It's been dazed. It's been slashed. It's near death. But tries one last time to lash out. It's going to go ahead and try to hit Timur. Well, Alberix hit it last pretty hard with a magic club, so I think he's going to try to bite Alberix. A 20?
20 does hit.
All right, so it's 2 piercing damage, but then 4 fire damage as you feel the heat sink into you and burn, kind of 3rd degree burn you a little bit. And then it tries to wrap its tail around you for a 15, which should be a miss, right?
Right.
And so it misses that. Okay, so that is its turn. Maybe it maneuvers here. And then it is Killian's turn.
All right. So seeing Drubin's Eldritch Blast miss, Killian is just going to start begging on his shield in an attempt to do the help action against the snake that is hexed.
Okay, so this one here. We'll do that. All right. So that's your action.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
It.
Okay. That's it for Killian. This creature climbs up out, makes its way 5, 10, 15, 20. Uh-oh, Alberix. You are surrounded. Here comes a bite. 16. I think I got to hit a 17 to get you, right? And a tail. Ooh.
Still hits.
Okay, tail wraps around you and searing heat scalds you. You get 2 bludgeoning damage as it wraps around you. It almost coils around you like a constrictor. And then you can feel burning sensation for 2 more fire damage. And you are currently grappled at this point. So you have the restrained condition. So we'll put a little net on you. Just so everybody knows, we'll read our condition for our audience once again. So let's go to conditions, and restrained is going to be, as I scroll down and get it right. So your speed becomes 0, and you cannot benefit from any bonus to speed. Attack rolls against you have advantage, and your attack rolls currently have disadvantage while restrained. You also have disadvantage on any type of dexterity saving throw you might have to make. All right. So you are restrained currently. It is done. Let's go back to our turn order. It is completed. The next one is going to try to get our other paladin here, Killian. So let's try to do a bite.
That'll miss.
Yep, a miss, and then a tail. Oh,
We'll
and
also
a
miss.
miss. Terrible, terrible rolls. He's going to shift to here. And that will bring us to Drubrin. Bottom of the round, bottom of second round. Things are 12 seconds have gone by. What does Drubrin do?
Drubrin's gonna fire Eldritch Blast at the Hex target with advantage, I believe, since the help action.
Yep, you're the next one to attack it, so you have advantage on the roll. As Killian distracts it. There you
Crit.
go. Nice little crit.
Plus hex.
Yeah, nicely done. So go ahead and describe what happens to this one as it goes down.
You see the spear appear in the air after the forming from the tattoos, and it fires straight towards the fire snake, and it hits it, and the snake will recoil, and as it looks over towards where the spear of force damage came from, you see the shadows from his form come out and dig into the point where the spear hit, and kills it.
Awesome. Yeah. Bleeds out even the blood and the guts of this thing. You can just feel the heat radiating off. You almost feel like you have a sunburn, Iravel and Killian at this point. From the heat is so much. All right. That brings us to the top of round number 3. Iravel, you are up. Oh, you got more. Go ahead.
Could I use my bonus action to switch the hex over to this one?
Yes, definitely. Let's put that there.
Thanks.
Clear these ones out, just so they're not in the way. All right. Yeah. Okay. Top of the round. Round number 3. 18 seconds in. Iravel, it's your turn.
All right. Seeing that my friend is in danger over there, being grappled by one of these things, I am going to turn and I am going to go ahead and cast Magic Missile at 2nd level, firing 2 at the one that seems severely injured and the other 2 at the one that is grappling him.
All right. So let's see. So the one that is injured is this one. And I believe it's this one that is grappling.
Okay, so the first 2 will be towards the one that's injured, and the last 2 will be towards the one that's grappling.
Okay. So yeah, so the first one, you can describe how that one goes down.
You just see kind of a sort of a Robotech-esque spam of beams flying out from my clenched fist, and the two that fly over towards that one just kind of slam it from either side and just kind of crush it in the middle with this magical force. And the same thing with the other two, but they don't have enough, obviously, to finish it off.
Yeah, nope. Yeah. Okay. Nice. So that's your action. Anything else?
No, that's actually it.
All right. So that brings us to that was the one that just died, so we can remove that one. And then this is the grapple one. So Alberix, go ahead and make a strength check for me.
That is not going to go well.
We'll see.
Be like Timor. Ooh, -2.
All right. Oh, it's right there. It pulls you to this edge. And then it does, the tail constricts. You just feel it just kind of constrained. So it's just basically an automatic hit. So I'm just going to roll the thing, but it's actually the 3 bludgeoning and 2 fire damage you take. And you just feel it start to press your arms in and press your bones together. And you can feel things starting to, a little bit of a pop and a crack as this thing begins to wrap itself more around your body as it's dragged you closer to this pit. And that is its turn, but Timur is up. Timur, our paladin.
Yeah, well, he's going to run after Alberix and
push.
Grab him.
All right. Well, you've got a sword in a hand and a shield in a hand.
Well, he'll sheathe the sword.
Grab him one-handed?
Yep.
All right.
Ain't no fire snake stronger than me.
All right. So that's movement, action to grab him. Any bonus action stuff or? All right.
No.
Alberix, it is your turn. You feel this thing crushing in on you. What would you like to do?
I'm going to use my action to wild shape into a mouse and escape its grasp and move away.
Okay.
Can I grab the mouse?
It hops around. I don't know. Can't dexterity check? Can you? Can you get it? So transform, and then where are you going to move to? It will get an opportunity attack. It'll lash out at you. Just one. 12. So while it feels you slip out of its clutches. We see the mouse hit the ground. And then as the thing realizes that you're gone, it tries to slap its tail down on top of you for a reaction attack. What is the armor class of a mouse?
I'm going to look that up.
What is the hit points of a mouse? Do we know that?
A rat has an AC 10.
I think it's an AC 10.
1 health.
Uh-oh.
Did he get his dex bonus in there?
No, a creature will just say what it is. So I think he's still all right, though, because as a druid, so you scamper off. You maybe get to this. Maybe you're like right about here when it happens. And then its tail lashes out, squishes the mouse to the ground.
Timor screams.
does the damage. We hear the squeak, but then I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't played a druid in a very long time, or ever, I don't think. I think you turn back into your form now, right?
Yeah, but I take the damage, and that's enough to drop me.
Oh, okay. So you get burned. We smell burnt hair, sizzling skin. We have a crispy Gith Zerai on the ground. His body kind of reforms out, but you aren't in a lava pit, so it's still a bonus at that point. You're still okay. Okay, so none of the other damage matters. That brings us to the dead one, so take that one off the map. That brings us to Killian. Killian's turn.
All right. So, seeing Albirix go down, Killian is going to run over to him, so he is going to get an attack of opportunity against me.
All right, so let's throw out a tail lash. One at you. Misses.
All right.
I was going to say,
and-
technically, I ran past him first. He could have attacked me and
I
then
was
not gotten an
meaning
attack of
this
opportunity on you.
one.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. I didn't leave the hexed one's reach, so I don't have to get one from him. But then I am going to reach down and cast Cure Wounds on Albirix.
All right, so we see the healing magic, and as you touch his chest, 5 points of divine health surge into Albirix, who's prone on the ground. Eyes flutter, air comes back into the lungs. You can see some burn marks that are on him, and the skin kind of starts, the blackness of the skin starts to flake off, and we see like a pink, reddish skin underneath as it tries to reconstitute some of that. Anything else for Killian?
Nope, that's it.
All right, that brings us to Fire Snake right there. Killian's right next to him. No sense not to try to make a roll. So we have a bite. 21.
Will hit. So I take 4.
2 piercing and then 2
Oh, I take only
fire.
2 fire.
Okay.
Unless his bite is magical, because I have Heavy Armor Master.
It's not considered magical.
Okay, so I only take the fire damage.
Okay. And then the tail lashes out to try to constrict on you. A 16.
Will miss.
Should be a miss. All right, that's his turn. And then the next one is the one near Iravel. So he's going to try to latch onto Iravel. 15 to bite.
That misses.
Okay. And then a tail and a miss. All right. Down at the very bottom of round number 3, we get to Drubrin. Lots has happened. What do you do?
I'm gonna do an Eldritch Blast against the Hexed guy.
Makes sense. Yep, 19 hits. All right. Oh.
And I'm also going to use a bonus action to cast my Healing Light on Albirix just to top up his health a little bit.
All right. Bonus action, Healing Light for 4 more points. Cool. Anything else for Drubrin?
That's it. He ends his turn.
All right. Brings us top of the round. Round number 4. Iravel, you are up.
All right, I'm going to hope that this goes better than the last time and use my short sword and dagger offhand.
Okay. Yep, 20 hits.
That's some good damage.
Yeah. All right, and here comes the off.
Yeah, 23 hits. All right, it's still kicking. Anything else from Iravel?
That is it.
Quick point point of note, does he take fire damage from the attack?
Yes, I totally forgot that. He's within 5, so where's my dice roller? There you are. D6, 4 fire damage.
Do I get
Does it take
2 from the 2 attacks or just the 1?
Each time you hit. Yeah, so anytime you hit, you get a D6. So
Okay,
8
so 8
total.
total.
Yeah, 8 total. Good catch. All right. That brings us to the one that is on the edge here. Albrecht has foiled his plan. So we see Albrecht's laying down. We see the paladin reaching over. We see Timur there. I think he would go for Timur, who's facing him. Looks like a danger. So he's going to try to bite onto Timur here. So we'll do a bite.
Tail will
22.
be at disadvantage.
Okay. Was first one a hit or a miss?
That's a hit. That's a good hit.
5 piercing, 6 fire damage. And then we'll do disadvantage with the tail. Do you have to be close?
So long as whoever's being attacked is within 5 feet of me, I can protect them.
Okay. So here's disadvantage, so that would be a 9. Yep, that'd be a miss.
Can I parry the bite?
Oh, yeah, I don't see why not. Is that something you can do?
I do so. That's that paladin ability.
All right, do you have it so it goes into chat, or by half? Yep, so you can reduce it by half. Probably the piercing. I don't know about the fire portion of it. But yeah, I think the piercing would be cut in half.
Well, if it's like a rogue's uncanny dodge, it applies to all damage, as you're basically just trying to get it out of the way at the last second and avoiding half the damage you would have taken.
Yeah. Though I think the fire damage is coming from just the slightest touch of a combat. I'll let you have half. I think that's okay. We'll say you jumped back. Okay, so that was its turn. It doesn't do anything more. Timur's turn. Retaliation.
Interact with my sword out of its scabbard and
Yeah, 24 would hit. Ooh, tons of damage. Nicely done. Looks on death's bed, but not quite dead.
that's it.
Okay.
fire damage?
Yes. Alberix, you are up. Hitting it.
3.
3 damage. Yeah. 3 fire.
Alberix is laying on his back, crackling with smoldering fire, and he weaves his fingers in intricate patterns as he speaks a word of power and casts Thunder Wave from his back.
DC 14 con. DC 14 con.
Moving in the direction of the doggone lava pool.
Yeah, well, you would have to go only one certain way to not hit. Oh no, Thunder Wave is just a square off of your square. So no, you can do that. Okay.
Right. So it'll be a. Yep, that's the.
Yeah. Well, just so you know, lava doesn't hurt it, but yeah. It dies in the concussive energy of the thunder damage itself, rips it apart, and you just see the blood and the guts kind of splash all over, and you can hear it as it hits the ground sizzling from it being so hot. And
Alberix will stand up and move over to here with his shield presented.
All right. That brings us to Killian. Killian's up.
All right. So, let's see. I think I'm just going to move around the snake to this side so that I can keep as many people within my protective aura as possible. And then I'm going to make a longsword attack at the hexed snake with a 17 to hit.
17 hits.
All right. For a total of 5 damage.
5 damage. Now, you've been fighting long enough to realize that your weapons, normal, are not doing as much damage as you think they should be.
Okay.
Though the magic weapons seem to be doing just fine. And you feel the heat radiate off of the slash, and you take 5 fire damage
Okay.
for your efforts. Anything else for Killian?
That's it.
So we see him dance around. So then we get to this one that's been wounded and now being slowly surrounded. Is going to try to retaliate against Killian here. We see a bite for a 19.
That'll hit. So I take 4 fire damage.
4 fire damage. And then the tail lashes out for a 21.
And I take 3 more.
3. Do you take the 3 bludgeoning, or do you get to reduce it by 3?
Yeah, I reduce it by 3.
Reduce it by 3. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And let's put the little grappled things on. You are now restrained. All right. So we see this thing's tail just kind of latch around in like a big giant boa constrictor. You can see the different coils of the snake start to squeeze Killian. And we move to the next one. He's not going to do anything. So the next one comes over. And just because we can, he's going to move a little bit closer. See, Killian's in such a bad spot. And he's going to take advantage and try to bite the thing that's already not moving very well. And he's going to try to bite you.
With advantage. And that's a crit. And I'm down.
Ooh. So what we see then is these giant fangs from this constrictor sink deep, and then you hear like just sizzling heat, like it's a skillet, and somebody's just cracked an egg and it sizzles down into it as it sinks into like the upper part of his armor area and just right into the clavicle, and we see him go down to the ground, and then it lashes out with its tail towards Iravel for its final attack. Normal, not so for a 15. I don't know if that's enough for Iravel.
Nope, that misses.
Okay, so that misses as you see that tail whip out, and you feel the searing heat go wafting by you as it streaks by. That brings us to Drubrin. You see a wounded companion coming your way. You see another one just get ravaged all of a sudden in front of you. The stalwart paladin. What do?
Drubrin will look worried and quickly cast a healing light towards Killian.
And we'll say no longer restrained.
For a whole 1 hit point.
Better than nothing.
Back to full fighting capability.
That's all it takes. Take on a dragon now.
Yeah.
And he'll quickly fire an Eldritch Blast at the one that is currently got his tail wrapped around him.
It did kind of release him, but it is the one that had the hex on him. So an 11 streaks by. Yeah, we see it try to arc around. It misses, and then... Oh, go ahead.
Double ones. No.
Still not enough.
Not favored enough.
So yeah. So Inti light is not shining on you in this deep dark cave all of a sudden for some reason. You feel an absence of his presence. And it streaks by and almost hits the furbog as it goes swirling by.
That's Samuel Jackson. Fuck.
Sorry, Timor.
Anything else for Drubrin?
That would be it.
All right, top of the round number 5. We're 30 seconds into this thing. Iravel, what do you do?
All right. I am going to swing around the one that's closest to me and go for the one that is, I'm assuming, still grappling.
No, it let him go when he flopped to the ground.
Okay. In that case, I will just attack the one that's next to me then.
Okay. Ooh, a 10 misses. But the 23 hits. 2
Oh, those
piercing
ones on the damage, though. Jeez.
So that's that. And then you take 2 fire damage in as it sinks in and your hand just gets burned, scalded, 3rd-degree burn as you pull it back. All right. Anything else for Iravel?
I will maneuver around behind the two of them so I can kind of draw their attention. Kind of a moving target for them to focus on.
Okay, but never leaving the 5 foot, so you're okay. You're just staying engaged with them. Okay. All right, that brings us to. Oh, that one is dead, so that one's should be off the turn marker. Timur, an Eldritch Blast has nearly parted your hair. You were up.
He moves up to the snake and swings.
All right, swing away. 25 definitely hits.
How damaged was that one? Just is there a way to tell for me?
It has several slash marks on it, but it's still fighting pretty well.
I'll toss a smite in there as well.
Okay. Yeah, but that is clearly enough.
Boom!
Yeah. You can tell your sword when it drags into it that the scales of it are tough enough that your longsword wasn't really getting a good bite on it, but then the radiant divine power that streaks in just demolishes it and again crushes it.
His smites now, you'll notice they all have kind of a blue. It almost looks like he's trailing water through the air as he cuts through something like.
All right. Anything else for Timur?
If I still have movement left, I will take its position, which I do.
Yeah, you should.
Is its body still hot?
Yes.
I'm gonna tramp it out like it's burned up ashes in a fire.
All right. So D6.
Oh,
it is super hot. Like your boot soles, you've realized as you've done that, you're like, oh, I don't want to stand here for very long.
I'm sure I'm taking. I took damage from the attack though. So
oh yeah, you did actually from the hit. So let's do that.
Not to be super healthy
2
about that. But
fire damage. All right, Albrix, you were up. Our druid.
All right, I'm gonna circle around here. And pinkish red energy, and it goes down his forearm as he throws his hand out with his spear in there, and a lash of psychic energy comes out with his thorn.
All right, cool. Yeah, 21 would hit. So this one, only one left.
Yeah, 2 points of damage as it's pulled towards me.
All right.
Trying to get it away from Killian's fallen form.
How far does it go?
10 feet.
So to here.
Yep.
All righty. That brings us. Anything else for Albrix?
Yeah, I'm going to use my bonus action to cast Healing Word on Killian.
Okay. So 6 more points of healing into Killian. and then that will bring us to Killian's turn. So you're flat on your back. You feel divine energy has hit you. You feel natural energy seeping up from the floor below you, healing you.
Yeah, just looking around, I can feel where the heat like ripped a hole through my chainmail because it was a crit. Looking down, just like leaving my longsword on the ground for a moment, I stand up, pull out a javelin from my back, and I'm going to toss it at this thing.
All right. Yep. And the reason Killian mentioned that is because if you take a crit in this game, you get a -1 to your AC until you fix your armor. So good catch.
And
it sails off and goes like, you hear it go ploop into the lava.
Still a bit groggy.
Yep.
Yeah. As you wobble a little. Ooh.
With that, I'm just going to take my movement to try to move at least away from this thing and hoping it's not going to go for me.
Okay. All right, so this one is the dead one sitting underneath. So that one's out. That one is the only one left. It's got a good... we'll do a 50-50 here. Well, Albrix was the last one to hit. But the dagger hit hard. I'll do it, Snake. I'll do 50-50.
I cut that thing in half.
50-50.
This poor brother.
1, 2, 3... Albrix, 4, 5, 6, Irabel. Oh, sorry, I don't know why I rolled twice. Just the one. 1, 2, 3. So it goes after the thorn whipped guy. Swings in here. Actually, he's going to position himself in case he gets the chance. And then tries to grab Albrix a bite. For 10. He's not able to get through. You dodge out of the way. You're too sneaky for it. Here we go, tail, and 8, also a miss. So it cannot grab on to Albrix, who's seen this trick before, and make sure he dodges out of its reach. That brings us to Drubrin at the bottom of the round.
Drubrin will reposition the shadowy force of Hex around the new target and cast a guiding bolt at it.
All right.
But it goes into the lava and does nothing.
So it streaks off and goes by. The dice are turning slightly. Anything else from Drubrin?
That would be it.
All right, I believe we're on round number 6. Iravel, top of the round.
Seeing as how everybody seems to be having a very hard time hitting this one, I am going to just use a first level spell slot to use Magic Missile.
Okay.
Make sure it gets some damage.
Yeah.
All ones.
Big hits here. See some good damage.
The hand movements, clenching of a fist as I just kind of punch forward with the magical force as the missiles fly out.
Nice. Oh, 13?
Yeah, 13.
Plenty. And we see it get blasted, and it falls back into the pit to disappear. And then it grows quiet in the cavern once more.
And then out comes the giant fire snake.
The mama snake. All right, so let's bring you guys back over to there. Let's bring the cameras back over. So, all right, so you can see after a few minutes or so, the bodies are still wafting heat, but they're slowly starting to cool. They start to turn to ash before they just kind of dissolve or dissipate. You no longer hear any splashing near these lava areas. What would you guys like to do?
Killian is going to go to Alberix and use Lay on Hands to give him 5 health, and then he's going to use it on himself for 5 more.
Okay. So we see the paladin tending to the druid and himself.
You do me a great honor, knight. Thank you.
I was going to say, as the bodies of these creatures started to dissolve from their own heat, I was going to try to salvage whatever meat we could to help restore our rations a bit.
Spicy.
Spicy ribs.
It's already pre-cooked.
Who's going to be the first one to try eating it?
I'm gonna wait on that one.
Where's that Kenku? We need him.
Yeah. Didn't you guys try to eat the remoras and the same thing happened? All right, so it's gotten quiet.
I'm going to use Mage Hand to move my torch. I will light a torch and then use my telekinesis to move it all about this room to inspect what's going on in here.
As you look around, you've noticed that the ceiling has cracks in it. The floor in different areas seem to have pock marks, and there's a lot of heat that is coming from the lava pits themselves. And what it looks like is at some point, this area might have been filled with lava, but you don't know how long ago that could have been. You can see the scorch marks. You can see how the stone has melted in certain areas and it's been warped. But at some point, it's all kind of gone back down into whatever lifts. It's obvious that there is some type of magma channel kind of beneath you. And it makes sense because the mountain that you guys were going into was one of the big, in that mountain range, you know there's a volcano-like looking mountain that stands taller than all the others, and you're pretty sure that you're either near it or under it or close to it at the spot that you're at.
So does further on look like it just keeps going?
Yeah.
It's got to go somewhere.
Yep.
Should we rest here for a moment and then keep heading out?
A minute.
Yeah, I could do with a rest.
I mean, yeah, the worst thing, we might need to keep an eye on these pits to see if more come out. I don't really know how deep they are, and I don't really feel like going swimming.
I'd be all for staying.
Right. Once the torch has gone around the room, I don't see anything other than what we see now.
No, you see more hooks. You still see the contraption above you. It may be slightly damaged from some of the ceiling stuff, but it looks like it's still, the walls are there, the gutters are still there.
And it still heads in the direction we're going.
It seems to go straight south, like it was meant to go straight south and not deviate in any way.
Perhaps we should move a ways away from these pools.
Concur.
Sounds like a smart plan to me. I can't help but think that this would make, if we can investigate all the way through and make sure that it's secure, this would make an excellent forward operating base, so to speak, for the city. It's very secure. It's got its own heat source, so even in the dead of winter, it won't freeze over. People could live here.
Unless some horrible beastie lives at the end of this tunnel.
And I suppose that's why we're here.
Exactly.
Move away from these pools southward and find a place to get a short rest.
Okay. Yeah, you guys head just a little ways down and then pick a spot. And I mean, it's only a 100-foot wide tunnel. Grab a quick 1 hour break. What would you like to do?
Push on. Just out of curiosity, before we go any farther, did anybody buy a scroll? A return scroll?
I'm sitting on one.
All right, so you guys travel for another half day. You think you've gone probably, it could have been several more miles along this tunnel. The temperature has still been pretty hot, and you get to this area that seems to, just from the sounds that you're making, you've gotten used to how your armor sounds as it clinks, as your footsteps on the stone sound, and you get to an area where you're almost thinking it's time to rest for the day, that it's obvious that it's opened up. It's gotten bigger around you, though you don't see it.
Have this entire time that we've been continuing since the lava pits, have we still continued seeing more signs of battle and dead skeletons, things like that?
No, it's been more than a day since you've seen any signs of battle.
The chains and the are they still above us? Like, are they still continuing south even though this chamber is opened?
As you shine the light up high enough that you can actually see the ceiling. So at this point, you see that it has stopped above you, and then the ceiling rises up higher than you can see. And as you begin to kind of shine your light around, you are in some type of large cavernous opening that is bigger than this tunnel.
If you can cast light on a rock or something like that, I can have Edgar do a quick path around and kind of scout the edges of this room.
Druben does just that.
All right, so we see like this floating light with the bird. How about let's do just a straight D20 roll, and then add in if Edgar has like a dexterity bonus or not, if he has one.
I believe he does. Let me double check that. Yes, he has a +2.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so we see him swooping around, and what it seems like is this tunnel has now led into a chamber that is probably 3 to 4 times the size of the tunnel. And then out of the cardinal directions of this tunnel lead identical tunnels leading north, south, east, and west. And in this area, it looks like each of the tunnels have only the south tunnel, the one you've been following, that heads back north and continues south, starts up again at the other end of this big, giant square room. I guess you could say just a big room. Another one of the chain contraptions starts up, though it doesn't span this room. So it stops here. You walk into the room. If you go all the way to the end of the room on the south, then another one starts up, and it's on a circle. So it winds around and then goes back and starts going back the other way. The other two tunnels that go east and west do not have any such structure on the ceiling. And those tunnels just go off into darkness. And then as you're floating around, it looks like there are the best thing you could maybe say, they are maybe like homes or houses or rooms with windows and doorways seem to be cut on ledges all along this big square room. And it's pretty big. It's enormous.
Are the tunnels to the east and west just as wide as the one in the north-south direction?
They are.
It seems that someone else has already had the idea to live here at some point. Are the apartments or houses or whatever they are cut into the rock above us, or are they on ground level?
They're on the outer edges of the walls, and you can see that there are some openings in the walls, but most of them are up higher. And some of them will have like balconies, some of them will have ridges of rock that are cut around so it looks like people could walk around up in this area. Though there are openings at the base of the walls too.
Is there any indication on how to get up to them? There are ladders, climbing holes in the wall?
It doesn't look like it from here. You don't see any ladders. You don't see ropes. You don't see any types of contraptions.
I could get us up there.
I'll have Edgar pop his head into just one of these places at random and just take a look around the room and pop back out. I'll look through his vision while I'm doing it.
Okay. So what you pretty much see is it looks like these are rooms that are just bare rooms at this point. You don't even see any clutter in the one that you pick. It looks like it's been carved out of the stone. It looks like even like benches and tables. It looks like the whole room was carved in such a way that any furniture or things that they wanted, they thought about that as they carved the stone out. So if they needed a couch against the wall, it's carved out. If they wanted a place where a bed was going to be, it's carved out. If there's a table, it's carved out, and it might have benches that are carved from the floor. It's all stone, but you're not seeing any other material in here. Lots of dust, lots of on the floor. Probably lots of dust on the floor. The smell that you're getting is probably the sulfur and the burn smell. And the rooms are probably.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Wah, wah, wah.
Oh no, the Zoom video. I can see it on my side. You guys, is it catching up?
There you go.
There you go.
All right. Maybe my computer just stuttered there for a second. The rooms are probably anywhere from 10 by 10s. You might find some 10 by 20s, but they're not super big. You do see like little doorways that run to other ones. And sometimes they have like a little window that looks out on the main big open area.
No sign of tools or like eating utensils, anything like that.
Bare as can be. You see stone and dust on the floor.
As we're looking around, Albirix will pull out a wooden case with the scroll of return and say, I could get us into one of those rooms and perhaps we could use this.
It seems like it might be a good plan. We can conserve our rations that way and come back.
If you want to stay here, we could.
I wouldn't mind continuing exploring until our rations run out, so long as we have that with us.
Either way, I would feel better if I stayed the night in a place such as that rather than on the floor where some fire snake could crawl up my ass.
We're not in Australia. Come on.
Hey.
Everything's dangerous.
Everything kills you in Australia.
So,
well, to help you guys out a little bit, you're pretty clear that as you explore around and you feel like we're going to stay here for a little bit, and you wander around a little bit, there are doorways at the base of the area, and some of those rooms have stairs that lead up to other balcony areas, and they're just kind of like there's not a real pattern to them, but every now and then you find one that goes up, leads to a bunch of rooms, then the different room might lead up to another set, and a different room. Everything is bare. As you're walking on the ground and the floor and you're kind of investigating a little bit, you do recognize that there's quite a bit of ash also mixed in with just the regular dust. So anything that was not stone seems to have been burned away, or doesn't even exist anymore, other than just dust on the floor. And you could spend a bunch of time, maybe you spend a day or so of your rations, because you got about 14 days of your rations, and you just explore this whole thing. And it's a pretty big community, but it is empty and it is bare. The other tunnels, as you kind of peek down them, some seem to be only half finished, like they don't have the finish work on them, but it looks like the digging part out has been happening. So they go for a long way before you decide not to continue to, it'd take more time to go. But the walls are not shaped and worked like the south tunnel that you've been following. That one almost seems like it's a finished tunnel, versus the other two might have been new tunnels that were unfinished, is kind of the impression you get. It doesn't have the ceiling portion. It doesn't have the contraption. Eventually, too, you find your way up above that central part. And in certain areas, there are rooms that have kind of like the smell of some type of animal, long dead, long time gone. And what it looks like is they were tied to what appears to be something that rotates. And there were animals, and there's big like track marks in this thing, and it just looks like it went around in a circle, went around in a circle, went around in a circle constantly. You have your rations, so you still have plenty of days to go. If you continue south, you go for another 2 days, full on south. You see the basket. Now, the baskets on this one on the right-hand side, they are full of what appears to be some type of ore or some type of stone that you don't recognize, but is not the same as the mountain and not the same as the other side. The left-hand side is empty. So it seems like whatever was going out was going south, and the empty baskets were coming back to the north. Whereas when you were in the tunnel before it gets to the room, rock was going north and empty baskets were coming south. You get all the way down to the end of the tunnel, and you realize that this underground tunnel that is straight as can be, doesn't make any elevation changes whatsoever, is about a 4-day travel forward and back. And you get to an end of a tunnel that has the same rock debris in front of it that you saw at the when you first came in. It's just piled with rocks, and when you look at the rocks, some of it is worked stone, as if the stone has been crumbled and shattered. Some of it is the ceiling has fallen in. Some of it is obviously the cliff face of the mountains, and it's poured into the front of this thing so that you can't go any further at this point.
But we get the impression that this would lead to the outside again.
If it looks a lot like the one where you came in, so logic might say, yeah, if you could get through this rock pile, you'd probably be outside.
I'm going to go ahead and turn into a giant badger and see what I can do to this thing.
Okay. So this one takes you several days longer. It's definitely buried more. You're getting towards the end of your rations, but you finally are scrabbling it down. There's been a few near misses of rocks falling on and crushing people as you get stuff moved out of the way. And you finally kind of make a hole out, and you see, as you look out, you're up on the side of a mountain, basically, and you're looking out, and out to the your left, you're looking out of the tunnel. You're out to your left, you see the sparkling of the sea. The mountain sheer cliffs are above you. Down below you, it goes down the side of the mountain and then goes into what looks like a forest, but it's like a forest with no leaves or anything, no foliage, snow covered down below. And also down in this area at the base of where the mountain leads into this forested kind of area, you see what looks to be just like rubble, piles of rubble. And you just get this idea of like they used to be buildings, but they're all just like every single stone has been shattered to pieces of every single building. And there was some type of bigger thing here, but it's all been destroyed. You look south, and there is a whole nother huge land to the south of you, there's water. It's almost like a narrow kind of woods that you can see because you're kind of higher up on the mountain. And so when you look left, you see the ocean. And when you look right, you see what looks to be like a giant inland sea to the right. And the mountains just continue as you're looking out this tunnel.
Before I forget, I did want to ask if the stones that we were seeing in the basket that looked different, if they reminded me of the strange stonework that we'd seen at the shrines of Ara.
No, not the same stone. No. You think it might be an ore. I mean, you get the impression that it's an ore, something that gets smelted into something else, but it's not of an ore that you recognize or have seen before.
Kirian's gonna break a little bit off and take it with him and just put it in his pack so that during downtime he can potentially smelt it and find out what it does.
Sure.
I can carry a lot. Why don't we just take a bunch back? So it's worth something we have.
Let's load up the Furbolg.
The pack animal.
My shoulders are broad.
So clearly we've found a kingdom that has been forgotten by time and war and whatever else has ravaged it till now.
I think that dragon has ravaged this kingdom.
Well, yeah. So because you're at the top of the debris pile and you're looking at the cave entrance behind you, you definitely recognize enormous claw-like marks that have scoured the cliff face, and you can tell that's where a lot of debris has come down, but also a lot of the stone and the stone that you can see in the other area has been taken to such a temperature that the stone has melted almost like water in some areas.
We might be onto something, Tamor.
Yeah.
This shitty dragon has done its evil work here.
Well, if nobody has any other suggestions, I think we should load up and scroll back.
We've used up all of our rations. We've made it as far as we can go. Once we load up the Furbolg to where his knees are shaking, pull out the scroll and make it happen.
Can we take some, not measurements, not the right word, but somebody here with better cartography skill than I have? Could you look around and get an estimate of where we're at so we can fill out the map when we get back to the tavern?
I'm trained in cartography. I could do that.
Yeah, I'll end up updating your guys' map because you guys have found a different area.
Clearly.
Stage 2.
I'm gonna hit that scroll and step through the portal of power.
That's not a third level area, by the way. I think that's a higher quest zone than we are currently prepared.
By the way, I have shield now and I totally forgot about it, so I don't know how to play my character.
It's battle. It's hectic. Sometimes you forget to use stuff. Things aren't going on, and you think, "Oh, I should have did that."
I just forget I'm a Gith.
So, all right, we will end our adventure there. So, you guys, just so I'm clear, you're at the end of the southern tunnel when you use the scroll. That's correct.
Should we head back towards the more secure area in the middle, or?
I'd rather not teleport back into an enclosed area with a dragon anywhere nearby, if at all possible. I'd rather be near a tunnel entrance at least, or something else we could run.
I'll use your wisdom.
Of course, he might see that tunnel entrance when he's flying around and say, "Somebody broke into my tunnel."
How dare you?
Out of curiosity, could I make any kind of check to see how long ago those claw marks look like they were made?
Sure, but it'd have to be a really good roll. So yeah, you could do investigation, but it'd be a really high DC. But you can try.
Guidance.
And we know that big bastard's flying around already,
You need to be hired.
right? I mean, he's been spotted.
You've spotted, at this point, you know of 2 dragons. You know of a giant red dragon, but you guys have also fought a dragon wormling.
That's not really a dragon
Oh,
yet.
actually, pre-campaign saw the big dragon.
I know. The stories have only grown in the past.
Yeah,
50
there are
years.
stories of a dragon around. You've not seen them.
That was a much bigger dragon.
Yeah, the stories. So, all right. So with that, you guys end up back in the temple in a room. We have the clerics who obviously escort you guys out. They close that door. They put the chain on it. They say certain prayers. They mark chalk on it, and that one is stored away. You see some other doors that you pass by that are locked. Some are open and not used. And you were back in Port Bastion. We can go ahead and take the other stuff offline at this point. Just use Discord to finish up any last minute questions. You've used all your rations at this point, so make sure you restock up and pay for all new rations before you go out on your next expedition. XP wise for our players,
That's a lot of brave exploring we just did.
each of you got 200 XP, and then certain people, Timor got an extra 25. Remember that you also sold the herbs that you brought back. That's 100 gold pieces also. Albrix, you also passed yours, so you got an extra 25 XP.
I'm sorry, could you repeat what the original XP was?
200 per person. So you guys got that. You got the magic dagger. And you have a pocket of ore, a big grouping of ore, which we'll figure out what that ends up being offline. All right, I think that's where we will end it for tonight. That was a good session, and hopefully next week we will see if another group forms up and where they decide to take their expedition in Revonar. Some people have gone north, some people have gone west, some people have gone south now. I'll update the map, and so everybody can keep an eye out. For those of you that have been watching, thank you very much. If you missed any of it, you can always watch it on the VODs or over on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/SirLucien. And this is a living game where the players get to play in a West Marches style, and it can be different. Every group has been different that we've taken out. They've had different players in it so far, so that's been super cool. So thanks for joining for tonight, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
See ya.
I'll wave the other hand.